Good afternoon, everyone. We're formally opening this meeting of the Illinois Board of Review for today, January the 28th, 2025. Just a series of preliminary matters. One, this is a hybrid kind of meeting. That means that some individuals will be remote, others will be in the building, sitting in the gallery here to present their interests. We do have a representative from the Law Department present as well. The board will introduce itself as well as our other panelists. We will then hear from the Law Department regarding all matters that have been either resolved or continuances are currently being formally requested. So we will do that as we normally do. I would ask everyone to just allow yourselves to remain muted because that prevents a lot of confusion with the background noise. So each of you will be given an opportunity to be heard. Your matter will be presented. Please pay close attention as each matter is called, the address and/or name. Some of them will be noted as moot or moot complied. If you need to understand the subtle differences, please call the administrator. Please do not break in to ask for a definition. Just know that your matter is resolved for today. You may, if you're in the room, you're excused to leave. If you're online, you can happy to close out and go about your day. Also, please note that this is a formal hearing. There's a court reporter as well as being recorded by Zoom. We're asking those of you who are attending the meeting remotely, please, you cannot participate in the hearing. If you're in your bed or you're reclining, you need to be present, you need to be dressed properly. That means, gentlemen, please remove your hats and headgear. No eating or drinking while you're presenting. This is a formal hearing. Also, only one person speaking at a time. If you speak over someone, it muddles the record. We need to have a clear record of each and every matter that's presented to the board. So those are the basic preliminary matters that we're asking, and those individuals who are in the room, please remove your headgear. So as we prepare to proceed. And finally, if you are in a vehicle, you must be stopped in a safe place. We will not hear your case if you're moving in a vehicle. Moving vehicles have interruptions on internet. Plus, it is not safe for you to attend a hearing while you're attempting to drive or riding with someone else driving. So that's important to do. So thank you very much. We will now proceed to introduce ourselves, and then we will proceed. Just note that those of you who are either here or on remote, everyone was listed. We have a very long list today, so you may be waiting for several hours before your case is called. We ask you to get comfortable. If you're wearing multiple layers of clothing because of the outdoor weather, you may want to remove them. So that if you on your lunch break at work, you may need to make a different decision in terms of your availability, because if you are not present when your case is called, we will make a decision, whereas we may dismiss your appeal. We're going to do this. So again, I'm Kenneth Woodson, board chair.
Ralph Pincus, board member.
Roger S. Tennis, senior board member.
Beverly Penn, board member.
Matthew Webster, board counsel.
Ryan McSherry, co-board counsel.
Model Boards Administration.
Thank you very much. Okay. We will ask the law department to come forward and to present any matters that have been resolved, and then we will proceed to the list itself.
Good afternoon, members of the board. Ryan Kiger on behalf of the city.
Oh, good afternoon, sir.
Starting with number 1, HA 2022-002676, 2115 Pierce Street, Virginia Carter. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Moving on to number 4, HA 2023-003169, 9702 State Road, Gerald and Ann Gallagher. That is a joint continuance request.
Okay, noted. Thank you.
Number 7, HA 2023-004097, 5242 North 6th Street, Marty Lee, That is an agreement for a city affirm for a 60-day stay of enforcement.
City affirm 60-day stay. Thank you.
Number 8, HA 2023-004811, 1201 Kerper Street, Dante and Celeste Fogelnitini. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 9, HA 2023-005161, 1629 South 7th Street, Tracy Chan. That is an agreement for a city affirm for a 30-day stay of enforcement.
30-day stay. Thank you.
Number 11, HA 2024-000026, 4245 O Street, Elizabeth Cuevas. That is an agreement for a city affirm 90-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you.
Number 12, HA 2024-000076, 5447 Tackawanna Street, Alfred Edmonds doing business as AME Mechanical LLC. That is an agreement for a city affirm for a $150 fine.
City affirm $150 fine.
Yes.
Just one moment, just referring to council, do we have a need to address any issues of timeliness?
Well,
No? No? Okay, thank you. Let's proceed.
Number 14, HA 2024-000235, 5518 Willows Avenue, Cheryl Green. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 15, HA 2024-000281, 714 Sansom Street, David Rosen and Stephen Rosen. That is moot.
Move. Thank you.
Number 16, HA 2024-000518, 1911 to 13 North 2nd Street, 1911 North 2nd Street LP. That is moot.
Thank you.
Number 17, HA 2024-000532, 9312 Treaty Road, Luciano Pava. That is moot complied.
Move complied. Thank you.
Number 18, HA 2024-000557, 2000 South 21st Street, Lisa Tay. That is an agreement for a city affirm 150-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you.
Number 19, HA 2024-000563, 2063 East Lippincott Street, Charles Doheny. That is a city affirm for a $150 fine.
Thank you.
Mr. Kiger, can I just ask a confirmation? I apologize for interrupting. I thought I heard my case get dismissed as moot. May I just,
What is your case, sir?
it is HA 2024-000518, 1911-13 North 2nd Street.
Just one moment.
yes, it's moot.
That's
Is-
correct.
That's,
Move.
no, that matter, has not been called yet.
Yeah, it's moot.
It's moot? Oh, okay.
That's correct.
Staying in
All right.
moot.
Yeah.
Thank you all very much. Have a good day.
Yes, moot. Yes.
Thank you.
Sorry, man. Let's continue.
Number 20, HA 2024-000567, 1342 Moore Street, Megan Powers. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 21, HA 2024-000637, 414 South 46th Street, Colleen O'Neill. That is moot.
Moot. Thank you.
Number 22, HA 2024-000649, 2937 North 6th Street, Alexander Santiago. That is moot.
Thank you.
Number 23, HA 2024-000653, 116 East Wyoming Avenue, Solomon Coreno. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 24, HA 2024-000655, 4856 to 58 Lancaster Avenue, Carlton Neal. That is moot.
Thank you.
Number 25, HA -000658, 3540 North 11th Street, Haiti Vargas, that is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 26, HA 2024-000676, 601 Colebrook Road, RD Kochu. That is an agreement for a city of Firm $150 fine.
Thank you.
Number 27, HA 2024-000677, 7208 Large Street, Wan Hua Chuen. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 29, HA 2024-000680, 4829 Wellington Street, Admir Bahari, that is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 30, HA 2024-000681, 417 to 25 Callow Hill Street, Brian Sauls, that is moot.
Number 30 is moot.
Yes.
Thank you.
Number 31, HA 2024-000686, 3931 Brown Street, Donna Bocella, that is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 32, HA 2024-000687, 4938 Old York Road, Vanessa Hill, that was withdrawn by the appellant.
Thank you.
Number 33, HA 2024-000691, 4928 Saybrook Avenue, Andrea Sanders, that is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 34, HA 2024-000695, 1922 East Ontario Street, Thomas Madel Sr. That is an agreement for a city of Firm and a 90-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you.
Number 35, HA 2024-000706, 6142 Lansdowne Avenue, Yan Tsang. That is moot complied. Number 36, HA 2024-000707, 5300 Locust Street, Alicia Wilkins. That is an agreement for a city of Firm for a $150 fine.
150. Thank you.
Number 37, HA 2024-000708, 5300 Locust Street, Alicia Wilkins. That is an agreement for a city of Firm for a 90-day stay of enforcement.
Thank you.
Number 39, HA 2024-000716, 4808 Tacony Street, Marcelo Salgado. That is moot complied.
But just one moment. I think it's 4808 Tacony Street,
Yes, Tacony
Okay.
Street.
and that's moot?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Moot complied. Okay.
And number 40, HA 2024-000731, 3420 Amber Street, Sylvia Ortiz. That is an agreement for a city of Firm and a $150 fine.
Thank you.
Number 41, HA 2024-000745, 2327 East Cambria Street, Atia Bevins. That is an agreement for a city of Firm and a 90-day stay of enforcement.
And they say, thank you.
Number 42, HA 2024-000750, 935 to 39 Lombard Street, John Brown. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 43, HA 2024-000760, 2257 North Colorado Street, Willa Wilson. That is moot. Number 44, HA 2024-000770, 3800 Mount Vernon Street, Stephen Rafferty and Adam Gobinger. That is moot.
Thank you.
Number 45, HA 2024-000775, 8500 Lindbergh Boulevard, Nathan Ward, doing business as Eastwick Joint Venture. That is moot complied.
Thank you.
Number 46, HA 2024-000777, 8500 Lindbergh Boulevard, Nathan Ward doing business as Eastwick Joint Venture. That is moot.
Thank you.
And finally, number 48, HA 2024-000805, 742 Martin Street, Denise Van Stuyvesant. That is an appellant's request for a continuance.
Noted that matter was continued in executive session. Okay, thank you very much.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair.
as-
I have a question. I
No,
apologize.
No, please. Just for a moment. As per our normal procedures, I will ask if there is anyone from the law department present have additional preliminary matters, and I ask that you use the raise hand sign. So we'll go to that next. And we have one person in the room, so come forward. You get the fact that you're here, you get to speak first.
Thank you. May it please the board, Leonard F. Reuter, of Philadelphia. Just have a couple other preliminary matters.
Mr. Rudd, I don't know, is that light on your,
It is on.
oh, it is?
I
Okay.
just need to get a little closer
Okay.
there.
You may be seated if you
Oh,
like.
Thank you, sir. It's only going to take a sec. So the first one for me is number 6, HA 2023-003824, 1408 North 50th Street. That matter is still pending before the Zoning Board of Adjustment. Unfortunately, they don't have the hearing for that matter scheduled until May. So I would ask that that should resolve this case. I would ask that if we could get a continuance to some point after May.
After May? Okay, is that a joint request?
Yes.
Okay, we will note that and continue it until after May.
Next, we have number 10 on the list, and I think this is what Mr. King was about to ask about. This is HA 2024-00020, 31 to 49 Snyder Avenue, Goldenberg Associates LP. This matter can be marked a moot or moot complied. This is an appeal that was brought by the property owner of the strip mall. It was a tenant in the strip mall that got ceased. The cease was lifted, the tenant is applying for the proper permits and everything, but the tenant never actually appealed themselves. So Goldenberg appealed just to stop fines. We're fine with that. And at this point, the city's position, and I believe Mr. King agrees, is that both the violations and the appeal are now moot.
Okay.
Anything else happens, it'll be a new violation at the site.
Mr. King, you have anything you want to add to that?
No, that's correct, Your Honor. Thank
Okay.
you.
You're welcome. Okay, we'll note that as moot then. Thank you.
And I believe that is it for me for right
Okay.
now.
Thank you. Okay, note to all concerned, the person present before us gets to speak first.
Thank you for coming to see us.
Okay, we will now hear from Ms. Kristen Paschal.
Good afternoon, Chairman Woodson. I just wanted to correct the record with respect to number 32.
32?
Yes,
Okay,
HA 2024-000687. This was withdrawn by the department, not by the appellant.
okay, withdrawn by the city. Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome. Is that it? Anything else, Ms.
No,
Paschal?
that's it for me.
Okay, Mr. Kelly?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Jim Kelly on behalf of the city. I just want to draw your attention to number, I believe it's 2024-000-678, 3124 North Front Street, appellant Jose Mercado. Attorney Dave Denenberg is on this case. My understanding is requesting a continuance. I just wanted to.
Yes, sir. Good
Okay.
afternoon. Rich Stutman for Mr. Denenberg, who's on trial. I'm pinch hitting right now. Stutman, Stutman. We're
Okay,
requesting,
and what is the request? sir?
we're requesting a continuance because we actually filed a complaint and ejectment. We have a jury trial. We have a trial scheduled for in the March trial pool on this case. So we were requesting a continuance of this proceeding to sometime in either April or May, pending our ejectment action of the squatter in our client's property.
Okay, Mr. Kelly, what is your city's position on this?
The city has no objection to that.
Okay, if that's the case, we'll note the request for continuance, and that will be scheduled appropriately.
Thank you.
Okay, you're welcome.
Be excused.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay, who do we have next? Amy Scouse.
Good afternoon. I wanted to address number 2 on the list, HA 2023-000076, for 237 South 48th Street. I know the appellant requested a continuance in this matter. The city does not oppose that request.
Okay, Ms. Scouse, we do have some concern because this is, I think, the 7th listing of this matter.
Yes,
And-
I do see Miss Pulley here for appellants. Similar, we were here a few months ago.
Correct.
And appellant also has appealed these violations to the Board of Safety and Fire Prevention. These are fire code violations. I know that any outcome from that board would also impact the outcome here. That's one of the reasons we don't oppose the continuance here, as there is the pending hearing before the Board of Safety and Fire Prevention.
Well, I'd like to hear from counsel for the appellant.
Sure.
Because we've heard the similar arguments in the last hearing. And so we just can't keep sitting on our hands while this vacant building remains open and unprotected. So who's
Understood.
representing the appellant?
Good morning, good afternoon, Samantha Pulley, for the appellant here.
Okay, ma'am, what is the current status of your appeal to the Safety and Fire Prevention Board?
We had a meeting with them, actually this morning. We are working through a proposed resolution at this time. And we continue to proceed forward with that proposed resolution moving forward.
Let me ask you this. Has a formal appeal been submitted?
To
An
whom?
application, have you submitted a formal application for review of the Fire Safety Board?
Yes, we've been heard before the BOSFP twice.
Okay, and so when is the next hearing scheduled?
At the end of March.
You have a date certain?
Yes, the last week of March.
That's not a date certain.
It's sorry, I don't have the date in front of me. It's the last Tuesday of March.
Okay, so what's the outcome? What's this current status?
We have a proposed resolution between the BOSFP and my client, and we're working to put that plan into place.
Okay, because the board is inclined not to go beyond, I mean, this 7th listing is well beyond our normal standard. And we're concerned that this is a public health safety hazard, and we just can't continue to do this way. So we need specific evidence that in fact you guys are moving forward, or otherwise we're going to suggest that it must be heard on our next listing. And we want a short listing here. So, but you're saying sometime into March is when you should have a final decision?
Our next hearing before the BOSFP is the last Tuesday of March.
Okay.
And so that'll be the next time that we appear before them. As Ms. Skiles has already reiterated, the outcome of the BOSFP would either does impact our proceedings here before this board, because the BOSFP does have that jurisdiction over the fire code violations, which are the only violations remaining to the matter at hand here.
Okay, we do have probably more than one question for you from other panelists. But before we do that, just want to ask final thing. Is there any document that's been created by the safety board that opposing counsel could review to understand independently the status of things?
I'm happy to talk with Ms. Skiles.
I'm asking, is there any kind of written report or status report updates from the safety board?
They have not sent me anything in writing at the present time. I have hearing notices from our last 2 hearings, and I have not received one for our next hearing date at this time.
Okay.
They have verbally told me that we will have a hearing at the end of March.
Okay, we do have another question. Please.
Yes, Ms. Pulley, you've been before the Board of Safety and Standards, and the outcome of those factors from the first 2 meetings, you don't have any of that evidence with you today?
From the BOSFP?
That's correct.
We've proceeded twice before the board. We have a proposed plan of action, and we will effectuate that plan of action as we proceed toward our next hearing before that board.
What is that proposed plan of action at the current status?
we've asked for a variance. We've asked for an extension of time to comply the violations, and we've appealed the violations themselves.
We understand that. That's what was brought before the board, but the specifics of what was discussed, what did you propose?
A variance to how they would typically have the fire alarm system put into a building. We've proposed a temporary fire alarm system be placed in the building, and that plan is going to be presented before the board at the next hearing.
So what was their agreement on the first proposal? What did they state to you? They had to give you something in writing.
Sir, I do not have in writing. This was all hearings before the board. They have not sent me a formalized document in writing stating the following. I am reiterating exactly what we have discussed before the board.
Thank you.
Ms. Skiles, do you have anything in addition to offer in terms of the city's position?
Like I said, we don't object, but I do understand if the board wants to mark this must be tried, that the city's happy to put this case on whenever the board wants.
Okay. Ms. Fuller, you have to understand something. Part of our responsibility and duty here is to be sensitive to public issues and public safety. And a building of this size that's vacant, that's currently not protected by a fire alarm system of any sort, in our view, is a huge issue of public safety. And so we're going to press you and anyone else to come before us if they aren't taking steps to make this a priority and get it resolved quickly. And seventh listings suggest that it is not a priority for someone. I'm not sure who that is, but it seems someone's dragging their feet. That's why we're
Excuse me,
concerned.
sir, I respectfully disagree with your comment about dragging feet and not caring. My client does care, and that is why we've continued to work with the city officials in order to effectuate this plan. So there is proper protection on the property.
Yeah. All I know is that it's been before us 7 times. We generally don't go beyond 2 or 3. So that's concern. Oh, just one housekeeping matter. Ma'am, the council listed as Michael Yanoff, both with the same firm?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Alrighty. And so we're concerned here. So because we're concerned, we're going to identify this matters must be heard at our next listing. And so what we can do is ask the administrator to work with you and Ms. Skiles to identify the date for the next hearing that's not yet been publicly set. So you need to get that date set. And so that's real and hard because we're going to want to proceed with this hearing the next time you come before us.
And again, sir, I'm respectfully requesting that we be permitted to continue to proceed before the BOSFP.
Well, I suggested that that's okay, but I'm saying to you, we need a date, a hard date, and we will list our next hearing after that hard date, because we aren't going to just give you an additional continuance. Don't assume that will happen.
And maybe you and council can approach the board of fire and safety protection and get a hearing date if you have a plan earlier than the end of March. Since this has been dragging on for quite some time, perhaps you could mutually agree on an earlier date if the board is going to have a hearing between now and the end of March. Just a suggestion.
Okay.
Thank you.
let's
The
proceed.
hearing date has been set for the end of March.
Okay, but again, hopefully you've heard us loud and clear. This is must be tried. Thank you. Let's move on. Anyone else have any preliminary matters?
Thank you.
Okay. If not, the board, I just want to check the board's record here. We have a few matters we just want to call to your attention. There's a issue on number 5, 3249, 38521 North 18th Street, Evelyn Smith. Is Evelyn Smith present? And who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Amy Skiles on behalf
Hi,
of
sorry. Martin Rembert representing Evelyn Smith. I had stated that she was away. She's at Johns Hopkins having a treatment done today, and she is not able to be with us.
Okay, sir, who are you and what's your relationship to this property?
I am Evelyn Smith's brother. And she asked me because she knew she needed to have some type of
No,
representation
we
here.
told her when she was last here, she must have a lawyer representing her. Are you an attorney?
I am not an attorney.
Okay, Ms. Skiles, what is your reaction to that?
Yes, so the city, as the board probably remembers, has raised a standing objection a number of times. This matter was originally before the board July of this year. The deed is not in Miss Smith's name, and therefore the NOV was not issued to Miss Smith. The last deed recorded in this matter was recorded in November of 1988 to a Patricia Franklin and a Joan Kennedy. That deed, since that time, has not been transferred. I know at one point Miss Smith did represent that Patricia Franklin and Joan Kennedy were deceased. However, we have not seen any official paperwork about the deed being transferred. So the city's position is that Ms. Smith does not have standing in this matter. The matter was last before this board December 3rd of 2024, where a very similar situation occurred as is occurring today. At that point, Miss Smith's niece called in, also represented to the board that Miss Smith was at a medical procedure that day as well. And Miss Smith was ordered to appear today. She was ordered to appear via a video. She's at this point has not ever called in with a video capability. So we would ask the board to deny this appeal based on standing or based on lack of prosecution, as at this point Miss Smith has not fully engaged in this process. She has not really appeared at any of the board's hearings, as she has called in, but has called in without video capability, or has called in through representatives, as she is doing today.
Okay.
Just a moment.
Okay.
I need to recuse.
Just one moment,
I need to recuse myself from this case. Mr. Rimbert is my next door neighbor, but Mr. McSherry will take over council.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Please note that for the record. Mr. Rimbert.
Yeah, I am also the one who is the executor of the estate for Patricia Franklin.
Okay, but Mr. Rimbert, Mr. Rimbert.
Yeah.
The issue that we've said from the beginning with your sister, Miss Evelyn Smith, is that we could not proceed until the deed matter was resolved. We've said that
Right, that's what I'm
repeatedly, and
resolving now.
you're speaking while I'm speaking.
Oh, sorry, sir.
And so we can't continue to do this without the deed matter being resolved. And we can't continue, as I'm sure you heard with the last matter. We just won't do that. And so what I'm going to do is ask my colleagues to join me in an executive session for a few moments, and we will come back to you.
Before we go into executive session, Mr. Rembert, have you done anything to transfer the title, to go and straighten out the issue of title and transfer the deed?
I have. I actually tried to get my gold seal yesterday, but they require it's a 5-day process for them to pull up the record on my end. I've also talked to my cousins who represent Joan Kennedy in this matter, and we are working together to figure out how to transfer the deed, so that we can get this thing transferred either into an LLC that represents the family, or one of our names. So that's the part that I've been working on. Forgive me, because I was brought in late to this issue, not knowing where exactly it was.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go into executive session off the record for a few moments. Thank you. With regard to 3249, that's 3521 North 18th Street, the appellant is Evelyn Smith. Mr. Bembry, based on your representation today, you're now the executor of the estate, as you're saying, sir?
Yes, sir.
And you were just brought into this matter?
Yes, sir.
Okay. What we're going to do is to grant you an additional 60 days to resolve this matter. Either you hire an attorney to represent the estate, or
I
you
do
come
have one
back.
for that.
Yeah, wait a minute. So you got to wait till I finish.
Sorry.
Either you hire an attorney to represent the estate and/or you have a clear title and the individual named in the title must be present to make the argument. Okay?
Yes, sir.
So that's where we are. We will note the record that this is being continued to permit the appellant to either hire an attorney and/or have the deed changed for have that individual present. Because keep in mind, if you have this put into an LLC, you must have an attorney to represent you.
Okay. Thank you
Okay?
for that. Yeah.
So if it's corporate ownership of this property, it has to have an attorney represent them. So your first step may be to go hire an attorney to help you resolve this as quickly as possible.
Okay.
Mr. Rembert, how long has Miss Franklin been deceased?
My mom passed away in 2006, and then my aunt passed away in 2014, I believe. And so
Okay, so that speaks to the issue. You got to resolve this quickly.
Yes,
You can't
sir.
keep doing this.
I will get like I said, I applied and I just have to wait till Monday or Tuesday to get my seal, and then I can do what I need to do with the deed
Okay.
from there.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thank you. How do I-
Yeah.
That he never took out.
Yep. Okay, I think that represents all of our preliminary matters. We're now prepared now to hear the list. We do have several people in the room, so we're going to start with that.
Next item will be matter number 38 on the list, hearing appeal under 0711-1423 West Erie Avenue, Jerome Enoch. Mr. Enoch?
Yeah, please come forward, sir. Okay, good afternoon, Mr. Enoch. You raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
Do.
Thank you. Who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Amy Skiles on behalf of the City of Philadelphia.
Okay, Ms. Scales, do you have any witnesses?
I do. Just give me 1 second. My witness is Inspector Brandon Banks.
Mr. Banks, would you unmute yourself, raise your right hand so that you may be sworn? Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
I do.
Speak up, please, sir. We didn't hear you.
I do.
All right, thank you. Okay, before we begin, I'll ask Mr. Enoch, sir, what is your relationship to this property? Are you the only owner, only person on the deed?
Yes.
Okay, no one else's name is on the deed?
No.
Okay, thank you. All righty, we're going to hear from the city first, and then we'll hear from you, Mr. Enoch. Ms. Skiles?
Yes. Okay, Inspector Banks, where are you currently employed?
City of Philadelphia License and Inspection, North District.
Okay. And what are some of your roles and responsibilities as an inspector with the Department of License and Inspections?
I am a property maintenance inspector, quality of life division.
Okay. And throughout the course of your duties, have you become familiar with the property located at 1423 West Erie Avenue?
Yes, while I wasn't the original inspector that wrote the case file, I did go and I put eyes on it as well.
Okay. And so you also, as you weren't the original inspector, you've also reviewed the case file on the matter as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And so were violations issued to this property?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And with the board's permission, I will share my screen.
Yes, please.
Are you able to see what I'm sharing?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Inspector Banks, do you recognize this document that is labeled City Exhibit 1?
Yes, ma'am.
And what is this document?
This is a violation notice
Okay, and who is this violation notice addressed to?
to the owner of the property at 1423 West Area Avenue.
Okay, and that's Mr. Enoch?
Yes.
Okay, and what violations were cited in this notice of violation?
As you can see, there's multiple fire code violations, including smoking and single multiple station alarms, carbon monoxide detection, inspection, testing, and maintenance, periodic testing, the submission of the certifications, exterior area sanitation, and exterior structure windows.
Okay. And so this notice of violation was issued last February 10th, 2024?
Yes, ma'am.
And at the time it was issued, the original inspector took photographs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I'm going to now move on to City Exhibit 2. So is City Exhibit 2, what is depicted in this photograph?
So this looks like the front of the property from the sidewalk view.
Okay, but this this does accurately represent the property that's located at 1423 West Erie Ave?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and what, if any, violations do you see in this photograph?
From this photograph, you can only see exterior violations, including the exterior trash and sanitation.
Okay. And in this photograph?
The same as well. Any exterior violations listed, the exterior, the trash and sanitation, and the windows that were boarded up.
Okay. And then what can you see in this photograph?
It looks like it's an individual inside of the gate that is put in front of the doorway, the front doorway entrance.
Okay. And then in this photograph, what's depicted here?
Also sanitation and trash debris that was found in front of the property.
Okay. And then again, what is depicted in this photograph?
Okay, so this is the right side, the right side of the property, also displaying trash and sanitation.
Okay. Okay. And so when was the last time you inspected the property?
I was actually there this morning to get eyes on the property, some current eyes on the property.
Okay, and how did the property appear this morning?
Almost identical to the pictures that we're reviewing currently.
Okay, so there's still a lot of this exterior debris and sanitation issues that are depicted in this photograph?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and based on your knowledge, the fire alarm issues, the fire alarm certifications, have those ever been corrected?
I do not believe so.
No. And so at this point, based on your inspections, are all violations that were issued in this notice of violation still outstanding?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I have no further questions for Inspector Banks at this time.
Okay. Mr. Enoch, do you have any questions of Inspector Banks based on what he said? Any questions for him?
No, really. The only thing I would like to say is that.
Okay, you'll be able to make your presentation in a moment. Just want to
Okay.
make you see if you have any questions based
No,
on
no,
stuff.
not really.
Okay. Ms. Giles, any additional witnesses?
No additional witnesses. I would just ask to move the city exhibits into the record.
So moved. Okay, Mr. Enoch, what is what's happening here? Give us your defense for this.
Well, basically, the place is not occupied. And what I plan to do, there's one person that watching the basement, and that's about it. So it's not like people are living there.
Okay, is there any reason why you can't, based on city code, clean up the exterior with all the trash and debris?
Oh, I don't mind doing that.
Why haven't you?
Oh, I started, well, the stuff that's by the door is stuff that I use. So if they don't want it to be there, I can move it. I could move them someplace else.
When you say how is it used?
Oh, I got a wheelbarrow, pretty much.
But we saw lots of discarded construction material and other things that are there.
That's probably stuff people drop there.
Okay, but as
So
property
usually I would clean them up. Obviously, when he went there, they must have dropped something there.
Okay.
But I usually clean them up.
is that gate locked?
Yeah.
And so how do people get that stuff there? They have access beyond the gate?
Well, I thought you were talking about outside of the gate.
No, beyond the gate, the stuff that's on the steps that goes up to the front door, all that stuff.
Well, I mean, I can remove them.
Yeah, you're required by code to.
No problem.
Okay.
I can, I can put them in the back.
Okay. Well, you may want to put a dumpster out there and get rid of it because it's a fire hazard.
All right, so basically you're talking about behind the fence.
I'm talking about everything that's the exterior of the property.
Okay.
And the boarded up windows are a problem. Are the window panes behind those boards or are they all non-existent?
Oh, they got windows in there.
There's windows in there? Code requires you to remove those boards.
Okay.
Did you read the violation with all the violations that are noted? Did you understand them? And I don't know if it's on the violation, Ms. Skiles, but if it's a vacant property, shouldn't it be a vacant property license required here?
Yes, there should be, if the property is truly vacant.
Okay.
Is there a church that's using the lower level of that property?
Say it again.
Is there a church that we looking at the sign that's on the building?
That's years ago.
So there's no church occupying the building?
No,
Okay.
that's a sign. The sign is there, but the
Okay.
people know.
So
don't
based
care.
on the violations you have in the written document that you have, you're also required to make sure those boards are removed from the windows, that the building is secure, but you have to have operable windows in every opening. Okay?
Okay.
So read that violation notice very carefully
Okay.
and make sure that you comply with it.
All right.
Anything else from anyone?
I just have a question, Mr. Enoch. Why do you have so much debris on the inside of the property?
Are you talking about behind the fence?
No, the violation states that you have debris inside the property, on the interior
Of the
or
building?
inside the building. Why do you have debris, construction equipment on the inside of your building?
I don't understand that because there's nobody who's been inside the building. You're talking about behind the gates. The only thing they probably, you say is probably some wheelbarrow behind the gate and I'll put it, just keep people from.
Can I ask Ms. Skiles to put the photographs back up on the screen, please?
Yes.
Yeah, that's the fence right there.
Yes, I see the fence, but
Yeah.
you can also see that there is a door opening there, and beyond the door, there's clearly boxes and some other types of material.
Well,
On the
apologies.
excuse me, on the inside of the building. I'm asking you what that material is and what is it there for?
No, I may have been cleaning some stuff. I moved stuff, from, there's, I'm doing some kind of repairs, so every now and then I would bring some stuff from one room to take it to a different location.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else?
Yes, Ms. Skiles, could you put up the violation again, please?
Yes, I can.
I think the first items on it include fire alarms and
Yes.
smoke detectors on every level. Someone must have gone in the property originally. Have you done anything to deal with the smoke detectors, carbon monoxide detectors, working fire alarm system?
Well, this was already installed years ago.
But have you done anything to make it operational? Does it work?
Supposed to be working unless, I got somebody in the basement, unless they turn off the breaker.
But did you check it out? You got a violation notice in February of a year ago, well, just about a year ago. Have you had anyone check the system out since?
Yeah, that's what I'm gonna have to do.
Oh, you're gonna have to do it, but you
Yeah.
haven't done it since last February.
No, I didn't pay attention to that. But, I have to, I try to, set up some appointment with, a professional
Thank you.
to, come in and, have an assessment.
Okay, thank you.
You're
Is there
welcome.
Anything for anyone else?
I do have a question.
Yes.
Mr. Enoch, you said you have someone in the basement. Do you have a tenant in the basement?
Yeah,
You do?
yeah.
Do you have a rental license?
You don't need a rental license for business.
Who is in the basement?
Malik Bird, but he's not a tenant. It's not a dwelling tenant, it's a business. Downstairs is what you call it, is zoned for business. The basement is zoned for business.
And so someone is renting out a portion of your space to conduct a
bas-
business out of.
The basement, yeah.
Okay. Okay. And you don't deny that you do not have an active fire alarm system.
Well, I have an active fire alarm system. The question is, if the tenant turn off the breaker, of course, if somebody coming to inspect, they're not going to see it in activation. So
Do you
that's the
understand?
But when they moved in, everything was checked out okay. And so if they turn off the breaker or whatever, I don't have any control over that, but I
Right.
can have, what I could do, I can call someone and revisit and try to check it out to see if there's any repair needs to be done, but I don't think there's anything wrong with it. The breaker may have been turned off.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, I have
Yes.
a question for, oh, go
Okay.
ahead, Ms. Skiles, I'm sorry.
I just, so Mr. Enoch, do you understand if you have a fire alarm system, it has to be certified every year?
No, I didn't know that.
And so have you uploaded the certification this year?
Well, I wasn't, well, I figured if you have it working, you don't bother with it, but if you want, so you say you have to certify it every year?
Yes, you have to have it inspected and certified every year.
All right,
Okay?
hold on. Fire alarm.
Any additional questions?
Yeah, I have a
Yes.
question for Ms. Skiles,
Hold
I'm
on,
sorry.
let me write this down. Has to be. Did you say inspected, right? The fire alarm has to be.
Has to be inspected and certified.
Oh, okay, inspected.
And that result
Hold-
has to
hold
be
on, hold
up,
on, hold on.
well, listen to me, that result has to be uploaded to the city system.
Okay.
Okay.
Inspected,
Ms. Skiles, you had additional questions?
and
I have no additional questions.
I have a question
Yes,
for
sir.
Ms. Skiles. Ms. Skiles, have we checked, has the law department checked to see if there's a active business license for that business that's being rented in the
all
lower
right,
level basement?
so, the
Sir,
fire.
no, sir, wait a minute, pay attention, someone
Oh,
else
okay,
will speak.
okay.
I haven't checked. I knew that there was a report that there was a tenant in the basement. I did not realize it was an alleged business. I haven't checked to see if there's a commercial activity license at this location.
Thank you. Inspector Banks, you said you were there this morning. Did you happen to see an active operating business in the lower level this morning?
No, I did not.
Okay, thank you.
Inspected and certified.
Mr. Enoch?
Yeah.
You rent the lower level to a business, a company that's a licensed business operating out of your building in the lower level?
Well, yes, there's a gentleman there, but I don't know what he's doing with it.
Do you know if he has a license?
Doing any business or not.
You said it was a business.
Well, like I said, last time it was rented to some other people before he got in, they were doing some business there. I mean, that was a church. I consider that a business.
So my question is
So-
to the current business operator there currently. Did you check, do you know if he has an active business license to operate out of your building?
Oh, I never asked him, but I can check that out.
I think you need to note that as well too, sir.
Okay,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
Any additional questions from anyone?
I guess I just didn't hear this clearly. Do you know what kind of business is being conducted in the basement of your property right now, today?
He's buying and selling clothes or all kind of stuff.
Okay. Just to clear the record though, Mr. Enoch, I think earlier you testified that the building was vacant. So that is not,
Well, the vacancy, basically, it's a 9 apartment building, okay? And I am in the back, on the first floor. And there's nobody else.
Okay.
There's
So,
nobody else. No,
did
can I
you
finish?
understand that if I ask you, is the building vacant, meaning no one resides there operating out of any space at that address, correct?
Well, I never said the place was vacant.
That's what I asked you, was the building vacant? You said yes.
No, it's not vacant,
Ah,
but
now your
like I said,
testimony's
okay,
changing.
Okay, let me explain something to you. I
No,
got
no, be
9
clear as to you live there, that's
No,
your,
no, I'm
sir,
trying-
you're speaking when I'm speaking. The building is, you use it as your residence, so you live there, correct?
Okay, yes.
There is a commercial tenant renting the basement space.
Yes, yes.
So at least 2 spaces in that building are
Yes.
occupied.
Yes.
So it is not a vacant building.
No, I don't.
Okay, that's, I want to clarify the record.
Oh, no, it's not vacant.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anything from anyone else?
Yes, you said there are 9 apartments. Are any of the other apartments occupied?
No, they're all closed. for
But you
years.
live there in the property with the,
I'm in the back, first floor.
but there are windows on the first floor that are boarded up, is that correct?
Yeah,
And there's a gate in the front that has a lock on it, correct?
yeah.
And there's debris along the side of the building?
Well, I don't, well,
Yes or no?
no, I don't see any debris outside the building. Whenever somebody drops stuff there, I clean them up. There's a possibility now, somebody could have been there when they dropped the stuff. They keep on dropping stuff and I keep on cleaning them up.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will now poll the board regarding HA 2024-000-711, 1423 West Erie Avenue, Jerome Enoch, City of Fern.
Oh, that's Enoch Jerome.
Enoch Jerome, my apologies.
No problem.
Let's correct the record. That's Enoch, first name, last name Jerome, Jerome.
Yes.
My vote, City of Fern.
City affirmed.
City affirm.
City affirmed.
Mr. Excuse me, Mr. Jerome, the vote is city affirmed, which means you lost your appeal. You may appeal the decision of this board if, to the Court of Common Pleas. If you need information as to how to do that, call the office and staff will give you information. Sir, you're speaking while I'm speaking.
Yeah.
If you need information as to how to place an appeal, just call the office and they will give you information as to how to do that. But that concludes today's hearing. Thank you very much. Have a good day. What's our next matter?
Brings us back to the top of the list, sir. Item number 3. Hearing appeal ending 0526 5911 Windsor Street, Elk Enterprises LLC, Michael McElhenney Esquire.
Okay, who's representing the city in this matter?
Good morning, Kristen Patchell for the city.
Kristen Paschal?
Yes, good
Just one
afternoon.
moment, just one moment. I'm not able to, Ms. Paschal, can you turn it, oh, there you are, okay.
Sorry, it just was a delay.
Okay, and who's representing the appellant?
Good afternoon, Jermaine Harris. I was just hired in this matter. Attorney for Miss Lisa Kennedy, who's the representative of Elk Enterprises LLC.
Okay, the last time the attorney of record was Michael McElhenney. When was he taken off this case?
I don't know if he has been. I was recently hired and I inquired about getting an entry of appearance earlier today. And yes, but I'm the attorney.
Okay, wait a minute. So that there should never be any lack of clarity in terms of who the legal counsel is for an appellant. So are you working in concert with Mr. McElhenney?
No, we're not of the same firm.
Okay, so
Chairman
one
Woodson.
of you is on the case and one isn't. And so
That's
the
correct.
decision is to whether we move forward today, because this is a must-be-tried matter. And so we need to hear something as to why we shouldn't just dismiss this.
Chairman Woodson, if I may.
Yes, please.
Mr. McElhenney did send the board an email about an hour before the hearing was to start, saying that he was withdrawing his appearance and that Mr. Harris had taken over. I don't know if you were provided with that.
Was not aware of that. Okay, just one moment, please. We're gonna go off the record. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, Ms. Paschal, have you had an opportunity to speak with Mr. Harris?
Yeah, I spoke with him briefly.
Okay, because we were suggesting that the two of you needed to have a conversation with the possibility there was a way to resolve this. We want to pass this matter because this is a bit of a problem here. Mr. Harris, are you prepared to proceed today?
Yeah, I would prefer,
None of that means anything to the record.
I know it's a yes or no question. I know it's a yes or no question. No, I'm not. But I would like to speak with Ms. Paschal to possibly resolve this.
Yes, let's
Could we
do
have
this.
Okay.
We will put the two of you in a breakout room to have a conversation. In the meantime, we'll call another matter. And when we finish that, we'll recall your case, okay?
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Let's see.
Mr. Reuter's case is number 13 on the list.
13. Yeah, sure. Yep.
This is item 13 on the list, hearing appeal ending 0097-805 South Front Street. Arthur Gibbs doing business as Veterans of Foreign Wars Post 8051 and Robert Hirschman Esquire.
Okay, good afternoon. Representing the city?
Good afternoon, members of the board. Leonard F. Reuter, Senior Attorney, City of Philadelphia.
Okay. And counsel for the appellant?
Good afternoon, board members. Robert Hirschman, representing appellants, Veteran of Foreign Wars Post 8051, and Arthur Gibbs, who's the commander of that VFW post.
Okay. Mr. Hirschman, will your client be testifying today?
I would like to reserve the right. I presently do not intend to call them, but my client is here, as is another witness, Art Gibbs and Patrick Bailey.
Okay, so you haven't decided whether either or all of those individuals will be called?
That's true, and there's only two.
Okay, all right. Just want to get a sense of the number of people that you had lined up. Mr. Rauter, you have witnesses today?
No, Your Honor. We had, the board may recall that this was previously listed about a month or so ago, and it was continued because the issue was raised about whether the city had not had an opportunity to object to the board or to the appellant's request that this board hear this as a late appeal, as a non-pro-tunc. There was admittedly, I guess, a little bit of confusion. The Court of Common Pleas had basically denied an injunction and a request for a non-pro-tunc appeal at the Court of Common Pleas, but in the court's order, they specifically said that it would be essentially remanded back to this board for the board to make a determination about whether it would hear the late appeal, and then that decision could be then appealed back to the Court of Common Pleas. I believe you have a copy of that order. I'd be happy to share it if you need to see it. And in addition, so it was continued for that purpose, and it's our understanding that the board would be addressing the non-pro-tunc question here today. And then it's up to the board, depending on what they decide, whether to reach the merits of the underlying appeal.
Okay, so let's begin with that then. Mr. Hirschman, are you prepared to argue that issue today?
I am, and if I may, Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
It's my understanding that we are only addressing this, it's been characterized as non-pro-tunc. I wouldn't characterize it that way. The issue of the late appeal. It was a brief discussion. My recollection was that we were going to address the one today, and if we are to proceed on the merits, that would be a separate day. I do anticipate that.
Well, we were expecting to wrap it up today.
I'm sorry?
You are prepared to proceed on the underlying issue?
I am.
Okay. Mr. Rauter, are you prepared to proceed on both?
Yes, we are. Again, just to be fair to everyone, I think that might take quite a while if we were going to do both.
I agree.
But so, yeah, that's fine. We're prepared to agree. And again, it's the city's position that both of these issues, the non-pro-tunc as well as the underlying merits, essentially involve questions of law. Prior to the board's last listing, both parties had submitted a number of exhibits, and we both agreed to stipulate to the authenticity of the documents and essentially certified that what the Art Commission's record, that it was an accurate record, preserving the right of either party to object to the substance or the merits of what's in the documents, but the documents themselves are essentially now self-authenticated, and that's why we didn't feel it necessary to bring a witness, because a witness would only be here as a records custodian, and since we've all stipulated to the authenticity, we can just proceed on the legal argument. But it's the city's position, at least with respect to the first issue, that on the late appeal or non-pro-tunc or however they want to characterize it, that the burden is on the appellants to demonstrate that they meet the criteria for the board to hear a late appeal. So they should.
Okay, Mr. Hirschman? So if you put on your argument regarding the request for a non-pro-tunc relief?
I'm ready. If the board is ready, I will share.
Yeah, we're ready to hear it.
Okay. Just like to begin by just pointing out the procedure, just that we filed our appeal January 5th, 2024. We did so electronically. This would be Exhibit A that's been provided. I've just removed.
Wait a minute. You say you filed your appeal to which appeal and what kind of appeal?
We are
You're showing
here.
the Art Commission decision here.
Yeah, here it is. So this is the appeal itself. This is the application. It's the appeal from an Art Commission decision. If you see right here, it's a matter concerns a proposal named the Philadelphia Peace Plaza. And I think that this is important. The reason for the qualifier in the description is, according to the City of Philadelphia, the Art Commission's final decision regarding the proposal was made at an April 12th, 2023 public hearing. You'll see above that, it says there is no written decision. And it's our assertion here that there's never been a formal decision, and was the reason, and there was a considerable amount of pleadings and litigation in the Court of Common Pleas, but I'll move on. We then received a response, said we need to complete a late appeal form, which we did the same day. This is all January 5th. We filed our late appeal. It was given an appeal number. And you can see the request is for a late appeal. In response, we received, this was on March 22nd, 2024. The Board of L&I Review has granted your late appeal request. I'd like to point out that we filed our appeal. The appellant filed its appeal. The late appeal was granted.
Okay.
Subsequently received notice on October 11th, 2024. We've been scheduled for a hearing. Again, nothing further was submitted to the board aside from the exhibits prior to the December 3rd, 2024 hearing.
Okay.
It showed up on December 3rd, 2024, and at that time, the city first brought up this issue of timeliness. I'd like to point out that had the appellant been denied the opportunity and that late appeal was denied, I could not have shown up at the board's December 3rd, 2024 hearing and said, I have an issue, I must be heard. I think you can see the patent unfairness of that. What we're getting at, and the board has brought it up in other procedure, that there is a recourse when a party feels that there has been an improper decision. It was already brought up in a prior hearing. There's local rule. I don't want to do this to you guys. I know you know the rules. The local rule number 320.
Okay, Mr. Hirschman, that we understand, we'll stipulate to that, but what we're getting to, a couple questions that will help cut through this, I believe. The issue is that this has been remanded to us by the Court of Common Pleas on the issue of the non-pro-tunc relief. When was the remand? What was the date of the court's remand?
So I don't agree with that.
But that's my question. I'm asking you to answer my question.
There was no remand. The matter
was no remand, Court of Common Pleas?
It was dismissed. Our hearing was dismissed The matter was dismissed. It's up on appeal. And we were told, hey, here are your avenues. Go file a late appeal. We were told if you're unsuccessful, you come back to the common pleas court, which is why I'm bringing this up, which is
This
why I'm
is-
saying that the recourse is for the
This is
city.
Matthew Webster, Board Counsel. It was dismissed without prejudice, and the language of the order indicated that they should seek an adjudication at the municipal level.
Okay.
Do you agree with that, Mr. Hirschman?
I certainly do.
What was the date of that decision?
I have it. It is exhibit, I believe, B3 to what we've submitted. I'd have to get out of this and bring it up. But I believe it was,
The city also agrees with the characterization. I may have said remand. That was, if I did say that, it's a mistake. It was, the court specifically said that it was dismissed without prejudice to their right to file an appeal with the administrative agency, i.e. the Board of L&I Review, and that if the agency, this board, denied the appeal as untimely, that they could then file a petition to seek a non-protonc appeal at the Court of Common Pleas. That order is 7th of December, 2023. Looks like it was docketed on the 8th.
7th of December?
2023, yes.
Okay. 7/2023. Okay. All right. And what was the date of the appeal based on that, Mr. Hirschman?
January 5th, 2024.
January 5th, 2024. Okay. All right. Thank you.
May I
yes.
proceed?
Well, just one moment.
Mr. Hirschman, when was the appeal to Common Pleas Court filed?
It wasn't filed as an appeal to Common Pleas Court. And if I'm able to proceed, I can tell you why. It's in this presentation. It's in this review of these.
Well, Mr. Hirschman, we're probably going to be cutting some of that short because we want to get to the issue of this non-proton relief and hear the underlying case. So just understand if we're going to ask you questions that maybe cut through your presentation.
That's fine. But if you allow me to proceed, I believe you
Okay.
have your answers. Of course, I'm ready to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, please.
Okay, but I'd like to point out the point that I'm making here again is this is not a remand, and the city.
We're beyond that.
Okay, so I want everyone to understand we would not have been able to show up on that date, and nothing has changed since the date that we filed our late appeal. The city had noticed that the hearing was coming up on December 3rd. At the very latest, on October 11th, when the city received the notice, it had 30 days. It's just rather ironic that we're here with this argument that we're late when the city did not take the proper procedures. I'll move on. We can get to the issue, which is the date that the notice supposedly occurred. That is the date that the notice, that the time started to run, the 30-day period. According to the city, it happened during the meeting minutes. A final decision was made in regard to this Peace Plaza. And I'd like to bring up those meeting minutes here.
Oh, wait, just one second. Mr. Pincus asked a question. I just want to make sure.
Oh, I'm
we get
sorry, I
to
didn't
his
hear.
answer. But he had asked earlier before you resume your presentation.
The question I asked is, you're going to recite and go through a recitation right now of the actions and the dates of the actions of the Philadelphia Art Commission. And at some point, you are going to say to us, here's when that final decision was rendered, and we then filed an appeal, and the appeal that was filed on behalf of your client was filed with the Court of Common Pleas, not with the Board of License and Inspection Review. And so my question is, when did the initial appeal when was the initial appeal filed with the Court of Common Pleas? Then you can come back and support that date. But can
Thank
you
you.
tell me when that appeal was filed? I mean, it's a matter of record, so it's a simple question, I think.
You would think, but it's complicated. But I'm going to answer the question. An appeal was never filed. Our position is that a final decision was never made. We don't have a piece of paper that is a final decision. We filed a complaint. We filed an action
When
in
did you
mandamus.
file that complaint with the Court of Common Pleas?
Oh, September
Or what year?
of
September.
2024.
Pardon me?
Of 2023. I apologize.
Well, do you have a date? I mean, you must have a court record, or is that one of the documents that's here? When was the complaint filed in Common Pleas Court?
If you give me a moment, I'd have to just quickly look. I apologize.
No, that's fine.
Okay, please give me one moment. I'm going to stop sharing.
If I can interject, Mr. Hirschman, I have that original filing as September 12th, 2023 with the Court of Common Pleas.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Mr. Reuter.
And that the docket number is the Court of Common Pleas, Philadelphia County, September 2023. Looks like number 1041. Does that sound right? I think that's right.
Thank you. Mr. Pincus, is that satisfactory?
Yes.
So the issue is the critical nature of that date compared to when you submitted, and it is, the court responded to you December 2023, correct?
It went through many iterations. There was motion for preliminary.
But the final decision was December 7th, 23.
It was a decision made on preliminary objections.
Okay, December 7th, 23.
That's correct. I'm sorry. Yes, sir.
Yes, okay. And so the issue is whether or not, in fact, the appeal that you filed subsequent to that was late or not. And
I
whether-
believe that that is the issue.
Okay. Mr. Roder, do you have any response to that before we move on?
Well, yes, I mean, I think that gets kind of to the heart of the matter. The action that was filed with the Court of Common Pleas, again, was filed in September of 2023. The city's position is that the Art Commission's final decision on the, and I want to just not put too fine a point on it, but on the text of the peace statute was April 12th of 2023. At the very latest, one might consider the final decision to have been in June of 2023, and I can get into that reasons for that moment if you'd like. But even if the final decision, that is the final version of the text that was submitted, was in June of 2023, and even if you were to consider the action filed with the Court of Common Pleas in September of 2023 to be an appeal, or somehow date the appeal from that point, that was still too late. You have 30 days to file an appeal from a decision of a local agency. And so and there's case law on that. The Berger and Montague case, which again was cited at the Court of Common Pleas. I can provide the citation to the court, to the board as well. So the matter, at the very latest, the city's position is that the Art Commission's decision was June of 2023, but it's our position that it was actually April 12th, 2023. And again, that was only as to the text that was going to be attached to the statute and the site. The statute itself and the setting for the site and the design was actually finally approved by the Art Commission back in October of 2022, and no appeal was ever filed from that. And in fact, there's no doubt in the record that the appellants were very well aware of that decision, and that in fact the April meeting of the Art Commission only dealt with the text. So what the Art Commission did, and this is in the exhibits that the city's produced, and again, many of which are also repeated by the appellant, what the Art Commission did in April 12th, 2023 is they did something that's very common for administrative agency. You see the Historical Commission do it quite often, for instance, is that they approved the text. There was a lot of discussion. There were a lot of people that were there. The meeting went on for quite a long time. There was a number of submissions by the appellant, by other people who were opposed to the statute and the text, people who were in support of the statute and the text. And the Art Commission gave a final approval of the text and then deferred to the staff of the commission for the ministerial, final format of the text. So the final details of the text were left to the staff. So again, you see the Historical Commission, as an example, does the same thing where they will say, okay, we're going to approve this alteration to the historic property, staff to approve details. And those details would be things like the color of the paint that's going to be used or the texture of the masonry and that kind of thing that might not have a final form at the time of the submission before the commission. So it's the same thing here with the Art Commission. The Art Commission, there was a lot of discussion about what the text was going to refer to, that the text, and again, it's kind of hard to talk about these things in the abstract without getting into the merits, which we're not trying not
Yeah,
to do.
I guess, Mr. Ryder, I think that for me, and we'll see if the board agrees, is that is the clock running from the date of the Art Commission's decision, whatever that may be, or is it running from the date of Common Pleas Court's dismissal?
Well, the city believes that it runs from the date of the Art Commission's decision, which, again, our position is that it's April 12th, but at the very, very latest, it could be, June 20, I'll have to get the exact date in June, but still June of 2023. And that, again, the court's order from December 7th of 2023 specifically indicated that the board had to decide whether or not to hear the appeal late, because otherwise it would have been no point for them to appeal the court's decision to, they can't appeal the court's decision to this board. They have to be appealing the Art Commission's decision. So again, even if it's June, the appeal was too late.
Mr. Hirschman, what is your sense of where the clock starts? Is it the Art Commission decision or Common Pleas Court denied?
We were never provided with any of these notices that.
Mr. Hirschman, that's not my question to you. My question is, when do you sense the clock starts running?
On the date that we were kicked out of court, December 7th.
Okay.
2020.
All right, thank you.
2024.
Yeah.
The date, why did you go to court? What prompted you to go to court in September? Was there you could have gone to court in April, May, June, July, August, September. You're saying you went to court in September. Was there some reason? Was there something that triggered your filing a complaint in Common Pleas Court? Or you just said, well, it's time, maybe we ought to do this now?
My client became aware that the possibility that the city had decided that the approval was done. We were waiting for something, my client was waiting for something substantive. If I'd be allowed to proceed with my exhibits, I could show you precisely what I mean. We were waiting for the Art Commission to clarify their approval. Their approval was made on April 12th, 2023 with a proviso that said additional steps had to be taken.
Was there a communication from the Art Commission?
There was no
the
communication.
applicant?
No, after we filed the complaint, we then received documents, which I'll be happy to show you, which say, a final decision was rendered on April 12th, 2023, subject to additional language being submitted. Then subsequent to that, another decision of final approval was given to the applicant so that they.
And what was the date of those, did you acquire that information?
We didn't acquire that until after we had instituted the action in mandamus.
What date did you institute that action?
That would be the September 23rd date, but I don't know the date that we received the response.
Okay.
So again, if the city could respond, and again, it would be maybe helpful to the board to show what the commission's decision form indicated, if it's all right, if you want me to.
Well, the dates are what we're really concerned about, and whether or not it was clear based on their normal operating procedure. This is their decision process.
Well, and I have a question. Was the American Legion Post, Veterans of VFW Post, or Mr. Gibbs a party listed at the Art Commission hearings? Were they?
So that's.
Are you asking me a question, sir?
If I can respond, at least for the city's position, the answer is no. They are not parties. The reason that this matter went to the Art Commission at all is because the proposal was to install this particular statue with an inscription on public land, and per the charter, per the Home Rule Charter, any acquisition of property and any acquisition of art by the city, or for that matter, any deaccessioning of art or property by the city has to go through the Art Commission. So this is a requirement of the charter that the Art Commission review the matter. Public comment is welcome and arguably required under the under the Sunshine Act and under the other laws applicable to the city, public meetings law, the city of Philadelphia. And the position of objectors at the Art Commission is simply that of public comment. They are not parties to the actual application process. Not to stir up bad memories, but this is the same thing that we went through for the Columbus statue matter, which was the deaccessioning, or not even a deaccessioning, but the temporary attempt to temporarily remove the Columbus statue from Marconi Plaza. So again, that is because the Art Commission has to review this under the charter. So it's not like a zoning application that might go to the Art Commission because like you're putting up a sign on the Parkway, that has to be approved by the Art Commission. That goes through the zoning board, and then that's just treated like a preliminary type decision like water or streets or something might have to do. This is different. This is a requirement of the charter that any acquisition of art or property by the city has to be approved by the Art Commission per the charter. So it's the city's position, at least at the time of the Art Commission, there are no parties other than the city itself. In fact,
is there a requirement for public posting of decisions?
For decisions regarding the art, what the Art Commission
Yes.
does, there's no specific requirement that their decisions be posted. However, again, it's the city's position that everybody was pretty well aware of what the Art Commission had done.
Okay, the reason I'm asking that is because, of course, Mr. Hirschman, it goes to the issue of notice in terms of was your client, if the client was not a party, and whether or not formal notice was required. So that's part of the issue as well. But I think what I want to do is go off the record. We're going to deliberate for a moment, come back to you, and then we'll proceed. We'll go off the record. Thank you all for your patience and participation. I think where we are, after deliberation, the board has determined, based on everything that we've heard in the review of the current documentation, that we will hold a vote now as to whether to grant non-pro-tunc relief. After that decision is made, whatever that vote presents, we will then proceed to the underlying, we may or may not proceed to the underlying matter. Okay, we will poll the board regarding HA-2024-000097, 805 South Front Street, Arthur Gibbs, DBA, Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 8051. My vote is non-pro-tunc relief should be granted.
My vote also is to grant the late appeal non-pro-tunc.
Non-pro-tunc late appeal granted.
Non-pro-tunc late appeal relief is granted.
Okay, the decision by the board is to grant the non-pro-tunc relief. Of course, gentlemen, you both know that you have every right to appeal the decision of this board to the Court of Common Pleas. So what we're prepared to do now is to proceed to the underlying matter. Now, because of the nature of this case and the complexity of it, we need to make an administrative decision today. Two things I want you to be clear about. We have two small matters that we want to hear before we come back to your case. So we're going to take a pause on your matter, hear those two cases, then come back to you. We will allow you to put on your case in full, and we will hold our final decision after hearing all the arguments to a later date. Okay, so I just want you to understand how we plan to proceed so that we can maintain some semblance of organization and move everything forward. Okay?
That's fine.
So-
May I leave my stuff up
Yes,
here?
please do. Please do.
Mr. Chairman.
Okay, Mr. Hirschman?
I apologize for interrupting. I know it's hard to hear everyone. If I may request, and we are prepared to go, my preference would be, because our understanding was we would not be doing both today. My preference would be to prepare my witnesses for another date. I'm sorry to do that to the board.
Well, Mr. Hirschman, if you are prepared, we prepared to go. Because the efficiency of the board, we're almost through our hearings today. It's only 2:30. We have time to hear I guess, all of the arguments. Another day may be very different in terms of our ability to guarantee you as much time as you'd like.
Thank you. I believe I'm going to proceed. If something changes, I'll let you know when we come back. Thank you for your time.
Okay, thank you very much.
All right.
We're going to recall two other matters, then we'll come back to you. Yeah, number 3.
Back to the top of the list, sir. It's item number 3, hearing appeal ending 0526-5911 Windsor Street, Elk Enterprises LLC, Jermaine Harris Esquire.
Okay, Ms. Paschal, are you present? There
Yes.
was any progress in the breakout room?
We don't have an agreement at this time.
Okay. So are you prepared, Ms. Paschal, to move forward?
Yes. Chairman
Okay.
Woodson.
Mr. Harris, what is your position here? What would you like us to do?
I'm prepared to move forward.
You prepared?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Well, in that instance, Mr. Harris, do you have any witnesses?
Yes, I have my client, Miss Kennedy, who should be on this call.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa Kennedy, yes.
Lisa Kennedy, if she's present, I'd like to have her sworn. Ms. Kennedy, if you would unmute and raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you very much. You can place your hand down. Ms. Paschal, your witnesses?
Yes. The city will call Inspector Riggs.
Inspector Riggs. Inspector Riggs, please unmute. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
Yes.
All right, thank you. All righty, Ms. Paschal, let's proceed.
Good afternoon, Inspector Riggs.
Good afternoon.
Where are you presently employed?
With the city of Philadelphia, licensing inspections.
Thank you. And what specific unit are you a part of?
I'm part of the business compliance unit currently.
Thank you. And as part of your roles and responsibilities with the department, did you review a case file for 5911 Windsor Street?
Yes.
Okay. And as part of your review of this case file, did you review a notice of violation that was issued?
Yes.
And would you recognize it if you saw it?
Yes.
Okay. At this point, Chairman Woodson, I'm asking permission to share my screen.
Yes.
Okay. Just 1 second. Do you recognize what's on screen, Inspector?
Yes.
Okay. And what is the responsible party that was issued this notice of violation?
ELK Enterprises LLC.
Okay. And what was the address this notice of violation was sent to?
Looks like 18 L. I'm sorry, it's hard for me to see. I'm using my phone.
That's okay. Let me zoom.
Address in Voorhees, New Jersey.
Okay. Thank you. And is that 18 Idlewise Court?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. And was the date of the notice December 29th, 2022?
Yes.
Okay. I would like to take you down to the center of the notice of violations. Can you describe what this LLC was cited for?
I'm sorry, could you make it a little larger?
Sure, of course. Is that better, Inspector?
Still a little hard to see. It's off center now. I'm sorry.
How is that?
A little more.
Sure.
No, could you move it over a little more?
Do you see what's on screen?
No.
Okay. Is the first violation for a property maintenance violation?
Yes, it is.
And has this since been complied?
Yes, it has.
Okay. And is the second violation for a fire code violation?
Yes.
And has this also been complied?
Yes, it has.
Okay. This takes us to the third violation, what is the third violation?
The third violation, I believe, is a zoning violation for the second floor porch.
Okay. Thank you, Inspector. And this is still an open violation. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay. Taking you down to the next property maintenance violation. Has this also been complied?
Yes, it has.
Okay. And then taking you to the second page of this notice of violation, can you describe what the next outstanding current violation is?
It's to Obtain a certificate of occupancy for the second floor porch.
Okay, thank you, Inspector. And then continuing on to the third outstanding violation, can you describe for the board what violation is outstanding here?
Obtain zoning for the front deck.
Okay. And then moving down to the last violation, what violation is outstanding here?
Yeah, same thing, to obtain zoning for the deck, for the rear deck, I'm sorry, and or to return to its previous condition.
Okay, thank you. So 4 of the violations issued are still outstanding, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, and continuing down to what has been pre-marked as City Exhibit 1, page 4, I just would like to call your attention to the responsible party. Was this notice of violation sent to a second address?
Yes, it was sent to 223 East Rockland Street, Philadelphia.
Okay, thank you, Inspector. As part of your review of the case file, did you review photographs documenting these violations from December of 2022?
Yes.
And would you recognize them if you saw them?
Yes.
Moving on to what has been pre-marked as City Exhibit 2, do you recognize what's on the screen?
Yes, that is the rear of the property in question.
Okay, and what specifically are we looking at in the rear of the property in question?
The second floor rear deck.
Okay, and was there any zoning or permits for this rear deck?
At the time the violation was written, no.
Okay, and how about today?
I'm sorry, could you repeat that?
How about today? Are there any zoning or permits for this rear deck today?
No, there is no zoning for the rear deck.
No.
Oh, so
Continuing-
Ms. Basher, you asked about permits as well, so I just want to have a complete answer.
Oh, I apologize. Are there any permits currently for this?
I don't believe there are permits. If there is one, it's an expired permit.
Thank you. Continuing on to the next photograph, what is it that we're looking at here, Inspector?
That is the front of the property.
And what area?
Oh, but just one moment, we're getting some feedback. Mr. Riggs, are there other individuals in your space that's creating noise, background noise?
Currently, no.
Ms. Kennedy, is there something going on, like a television or something in your space? Yeah, so it wouldn't be her.
Yes, it was, but I just muted it.
Okay, ma'am, you may want to turn that off or ask those individuals to move to a different space. Thank you. Okay, let's proceed.
In the meantime, Ms. Kennedy, you may want to mute yourself so this doesn't continue to happen. Thank you.
So let's continue. Ms. Pasha, you're muted now.
I apologize. Continuing on, Inspector. I'd like to draw your attention to page 8 of City Exhibit 2. What is it that we're looking at here?
That is the front of the property.
Okay, and what is in violation?
The second floor deck and the front porch. First
Okay.
floor front porch.
So the second floor porch above the 5911 is in violation, is that correct?
Yes.
And the front deck is in violation as well, correct?
Yes.
All right, continuing on to the next page, are we looking at another point of view or another perspective of the same thing?
Yes.
Okay. And then I want to take your attention to what has been pre-marked City Exhibit 3. Would you recognize photographs from January of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. And I'd like to skip down to page 12. Are we looking at the same property?
Yes.
And the violations still exist in the front of the property, is that correct?
The zoning violations, yes.
And the lack of permits, correct?
I'm sorry, repeat that?
And were there any permits issued at this point?
No.
Was there a permit for the second floor porch?
If there was, I believe I did see a permit, but I think it is expired currently.
Okay, so no permit was successfully issued, is that correct?
No.
And no permit for the bottom floor, is that correct?
No.
All right, continuing on to the back, does this photograph on page 13 document that this rear deck is still in existence?
Yes.
Okay. Continuing on to what has been pre-marked as City Exhibit 4, would you recognize photographs from May of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. And do you recognize what is in fact on screen?
Yes. It's
And-
the front of the property in question.
Okay. And the same conditions still exist, correct?
Correct.
Scrolling down to what has been pre-marked as page 16, do you recognize that photograph of the rear of the property?
Yes.
And the same rear deck exists, correct?
Correct.
Okay. And then I will take you on to City Exhibit 5. Do you recognize these photographs from June of 2024?
Yes.
Okay. And is that the front of the property?
Yes.
Continuing, we're going to scroll down to page 20. Do you recognize this rear of the building?
Yes.
And the condition still exists, is that correct?
Correct.
All right. And then continuing on to page 21, the second floor porch still exists at this point, correct?
Correct.
And taking you to page 22, the conditions on the bottom floor deck and the front porch are still there, correct?
Correct.
All right. Now, Inspector, you recently re-inspected last week, is that correct?
Yes.
All right. And were the same conditions still there?
Yes, they were.
Rear deck was still there?
Yes.
Front deck was still there?
Yes.
Front porch was still there?
Yes.
Okay. Have you reviewed the Eclipse system for permits for this property?
Yes.
Would you recognize that if you saw it?
Yes, I would.
Continuing to page City Exhibit 6, I understand that I'll need to blow this up for you. I'd like to take,
It's fine. I can see it.
okay. Drawing your attention to the left-hand corner of the screen, do you see any permits that have been issued?
No, they all say expired.
2 were expired and 1 currently says applicant revisions, correct?
Yes.
And if you go up to the top right-hand corner of the permit still currently in applicant revisions, is there any issue date?
No.
Okay, so no permit has been issued.
No.
So fair to say there's been no zoning permits, building permits, or a CO issued for any of the 3 areas in violation for this property.
Correct.
Okay. And is it your testimony today that these violations were properly issued?
Yes.
Okay. I have no further questions. However, I would at this point mark as C7 the OPA property record, just showing that Elk Enterprises LLC does in fact own 5911 Windsor Street. And with that, I would subject to cross.
Thank you. Mr. Harris, do you have any cross-examination?
Yeah, just briefly. Let's see. Okay. Mr. Riggs, when is the last time that you have checked Eclipse to determine whether there's been an application for zoning for the decks?
I checked the last day of the most recent inspection.
Which was when?
I believe that was January 20. I'm sorry. Give me 1 second. January 24th, I believe.
Are you sure you checked January 24th?
I was there last Thursday.
Okay. Would it surprise you to know that there is an application currently on file for permits to be obtained for these decks?
An application?
Yes.
Yes, but the zoning is not there.
No, I didn't ask you whether the zoning, I understand the zoning hasn't been issued.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know if you are aware that currently actively, if you look on Eclipse, that there would be an application for permits for these.
Yes.
Okay. And of course, permits cannot be obtained without zoning approval, right?
Correct.
For this type of construction.
Correct.
And isn't it true that it takes that it's a lengthy process in order to get zoning for
Correct.
this? That is not
Yes.
something that happens overnight. It takes
Correct.
several
Yes.
months, correct?
Yes.
Okay. I don't have any further questions for the witness.
Thank you. Mr. Paschal, you have any additional witnesses?
I have no additional witnesses. The city would just mark and move C1 through C7 into the record.
I do have a question.
Yes.
If I'm correct, the notice violation was issued December 29th, 2022. And Inspector Riggs, you said you checked the L&I files as recently as last week, January of 2025, 23rd, January 24th of 2025. Did you check to see if there's any appeal that's been filed to the Zoning Board of Adjustment in Philadelphia for relating to the deck, the two decks and the porch?
No, I didn't see any appeals in the system.
All right, so as far as you know, there are no appeals to the zoning board regarding these violations.
Correct.
Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Okay, Mr. Harris, your opportunity to put your case on.
Yes, I'd like to call Ms. Kennedy, if possible.
Okay. Please proceed.
I'm here.
Yes, Ms. Kennedy, what is your position with Elk Enterprises?
Owner.
And Elk Enterprises is the owner of the building at 5911 Windsor Street, right?
Correct.
And were you the owner of the property back in 2022?
Correct.
Okay. So when did you first become aware of these violations?
During the pandemic, I had a contract to do it. I wasn't aware of pulling permits, but when I did get the violations, I started the process to do the permits. And throughout all this, they said they needed the drawing from an architect and an engineer. So I had to find someone that was an architect and an engineer to make sure I had the drawings correct for the city. And this has been a financial hardship for me, paying for lawyer fees, architect fees, and all these city.
Mr. Harris, I'd ask if your client could respond directly to your questions.
Sure. When I ask you a question, try to answer it.
Okay.
And I'll ask you if I need further explanation. So that way it's not a narrative from you.
Okay.
So when did you first become aware of the violation? If you can recall.
When they sent it to me in the mail.
Okay. And that would have been when? If you can recall.
I can't recall.
Now, upon getting the violation, what steps, if any, did you take in order to comply?
I was talking back and forth with the L&I inspector, trying to figure out what I needed to do. They told me to apply for an easy deck permit for the rear deck. I did that. Then they told me I needed to get a letter from the engineer for the footing of the deck. And he just gave me all the drawings in November, the end of November of 2024, to give to the contractor to submit to the city for those violations. So the zoning has been applied for, the permit has been applied for. It says it's in review. I can't make it move no faster.
Mr. Harris,
Okay.
I did not understand that answer at all.
Okay. So what steps, the question was, what steps did you take in order to comply with the violations? So if we can just break that down, because you did say a mouthful.
I contacted the city, then they told me I needed an attorney because it was in the LLC. I contacted an attorney. Then I had to get an architect and an engineer. So I contacted them, and I couldn't really apply for the permits or zoning without all the drawings that they needed.
Okay. Okay, let me stop you for a second. So when did you apply for the permits and or zoning? When did you first?
The contractor did that, I think in December, he did one, and then
December of what year?
2024. But I did apply for a permit for the rear deck when the first violation occurred. And that permit says that it's a hold because they need a letter from the engineer for the footing.
Okay. And how was there a delay with you getting a letter from the engineer regarding footing?
Yes, the engineer just gave me all the drawings that he needed at the end of November of 2024. He said that the streets department was holding him up because I guess it had to go through something with that.
So as of right now, is there currently an active application for zoning right now?
Yes, it is.
And you can't get zoning you cannot get a permit without getting zoning for this type of construction, correct?
I don't know the answer, but I'm learning.
Okay. Now I'm going to show you, I have the capabilities, board, I have the capabilities of sharing my screen.
Yes, please.
Okay, sure. So, do you recognize what's on the screen right now?
Sir, if you could magnify that just a bit. Yeah, thank you. That's
Okay.
a bit too much. Just go back a little bit.
Okay.
Thank you.
Is this better?
That's much better. Thank you.
Okay. Do you recognize what is on the screen, Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
What is this? What does this represent?
Zoning permit was applied for on January 24th, 2025.
And this was for the construction for the decks.
Yes.
And this is currently in review now.
Yes.
So how much time would you be requesting in order to be able to get the zoning for this?
I really have no idea. I guess you would know the answer better because I don't know like how long that takes.
Okay. All right. I don't have any further questions for.
Okay, thank you.
For the witness.
Ms. Paschal, any cross?
Yeah, just briefly. Good morning, Ms. Kennedy.
Good morning.
You said you first became aware of these violations when they were sent in the mail. Is that correct?
Yes, one of the addresses is mine. The other address I do not recognize or recall. It's not associated with me.
And the Edelweiss Court address, is that yours?
Yes.
Okay. And you'll agree that the notice of violation was mailed in December of 2022, correct?
Yes.
Objection. Wait a minute. Objection. She can't testify as to when the city mailed it. She doesn't know when the city mailed it.
That objection is sustained.
Okay, Ms. Kennedy,
We can
I'd like
restructure it
to
see when she received it.
That's fine. Ms. Kennedy, I would like to show you the notice of violation that has been pre-marked as City Exhibit 1. I'm going to share my screen. 1 second. All right, Ms. Kennedy, I'm backing up. You will agree with me that, let me zone out here, zoom out, that the date of the notice is December of 2022. Is that correct?
It looks correct.
Okay. And after receiving this, you filed an appeal. Is that correct?
Wait a minute. Objection. That's assuming.
On what grounds?
Excuse me. Let me
a minute.
finish making
Hold
my
on a
objection.
second. Hold on
Please.
a minute. You've objected. I'm going to ask you what's the basis of your objection.
The objection is that she's saying after receiving this, she's assuming that this particular notice was received.
And I believe it's the testimony just now and prior to that, that the appellant did receive the notice, which formed the basis of her appeal. So I'm going to
the
overrule
only-
that. Objection is overruled. Let's proceed.
Okay.
Okay, so Ms. Kennedy, you did in fact file an appeal, correct? Yes or no?
I don't remember, ma'am. It's 2 years ago. If it says I did, I probably did, but I know that when I talked to an attorney, they told me I couldn't do it because it was in the LLC, so I needed.
Okay.
I don't know if I did or I didn't.
That's fine. I'm going to show you a copy of your appeal. This is your LLC name, correct?
Yes, okay, so I remember David Denenberg doing some paperwork for this, yes.
Okay, so Mr. Denenberg did submit this for you, and the date that it was appealed, you'll agree with me, says January 24th, 2023, correct?
I guess.
Okay, and you'll agree with me that today it's January 28th, 2025, fair? 2 years later?
Correct.
Okay, and I believe it was your testimony that the building permit that is currently under revision status was applied for December 17th of 2024, is that correct?
Correct.
All right, and the zoning permit that is currently applied for was only applied for last Friday, right?
I had to wait for the engineer to submit over the drawings.
Okay, and you do in fact have drawings, correct?
They're all in the Eclipse system.
Okay, and you previously had a structural engineer look at the work that was done, is that fair to say?
Correct.
And is it fair to say that, well, strike that, would you recognize that report if you saw it?
Objection, objection. She's going beyond the scope of the testimony.
Sustained. Ms. Paschal, she didn't, well, strike that. Mr. Harris, she referenced multiple times that she had to get drawings and documents. So in this instance, I'm going to permit it. Ms. Paschal?
Okay, I'll be brief. And Ms. Kennedy, this was sent by your previous counsel, Mr. McElhenney, but I'm going to mark this as City Exhibit 8. And just 1 second, I am just going to put it up on the screen. And I'm just going to go to the front page. Do you recognize what's on screen, Ms. Kennedy?
Yes.
Okay, and is that the structural evaluation that you had undertaken?
That's the engineer architect company that I used.
Okay, and would you agree with me that referenced in this report is the fact that the work that was performed was not up to code?
I do know that he said some stuff had to be corrected, but he told me to move forward with filing for the permit and the zoning because it's nothing major.
Okay, I don't have anything further at this point.
Thank you. Any redirect, Mr. Harris?
No redirect.
Okay. Does anyone else have any questions?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
Mr. Chairman, Ms. Kennedy. Ms. Kennedy, can you tell us, please, when the decks were constructed?
Oh, I think it was during the pandemic. I don't remember the exact date.
Sometime in 2020, the decks were constructed. Is that correct?
No, not in 2020. Whenever when I got the violation.
Well, the decks had to have been constructed before the violations were written.
No, because when I talked to the inspector, he told me that it was just built when in the beginning. He knows.
I'm asking you, as it's your property, when the decks were constructed.
I can't quite remember. I would have to look back at my paperwork and everything. I really don't know the exact time.
And did you personally hire a contractor to do the work?
I did.
And do you happen to know whether or not that contractor was a licensed contractor?
I have no contact with the contractor.
That's not what I asked you.
No,
I asked you,
I
Ms.
don't
Kennedy,
know. I don't know.
Did you inquire of the contractor if he had a license in the city of Philadelphia?
At the time, I did not know I had to do such a thing, but I know now.
Okay, thank you very much.
I have a question, Ms. Kennedy. ELK Enterprises, LLC. Are you the sole proprietor or are there any other partners in that?
It's my husband's name on there as well.
Okay, my question is, are you the sole proprietor or are there any other entities involved in the LLC? who operates and helps you run that LLC?
No,
No, what?
there's no other entities. I'm
So it's
confused.
just yourself?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ms. Harris, Ms. Kennedy, my apologies. What is ELK? What does it do?
It owns that property.
And that's all it does is own that particular property?
I'm confused to the question you're asking.
Well, I'm asking, what is ELK? What kind of business is it?
It's not really a business. It's just that I own a property and that's it.
Okay, is it do you own other investment property in the city of Philadelphia?
I do.
Okay, and it's owned by ELK or some other entity?
ELK.
Okay, so would it be fair to say then that ELK is a real estate company that engages in the purchase, acquisition, or rental investment property?
If that's how you want to word it.
No, it's not how I want to word it. I'm asking you a question. Is it fair to say that?
Yes.
Yes? Okay, thank you. Now, you've indicated on multiple occasions during your testimony that you had no understanding of how zoning works or whether permits were required. Is you clear that owning an investment property company, you don't know how the system works?
Now, this is the first property that I've renovated. The other property that I own is when I purchased it, it needed no work. This is the first property that I've actually done work to.
Okay. And what's your background experience in doing home renovations and development?
I'm not understanding that question.
Well, what prepares you, what trains you to do this kind of work successfully?
Well, I'm learning as I go along.
So you have no background or experience in this?
No.
No? Or have you done it in other jurisdictions, in New Jersey, any other county?
No.
No? Okay, thank you. Mr. Harris, do you have any other?
I have a question, Ms. Kennedy. This property at
Windsor.
5911 Windsor Street, is this a single-family home or is it a two-family or more dwelling?
It's a single family home.
And is it being rented right now?
No, it's not being rented.
But if it were rented, it would be rented as a single-family home?
Yes.
Thank you.
And may I have a follow-up to that question?
Please.
Ma'am, why is it that this property is not being rented right now?
Because I got all these violations and it's a financial hardship and I can't even get no renter's license or no nothing I'm trying. That's just what I'm doing. And I have a mortgage on this house and I'm trying.
Okay. I don't have any further questions. I'd just like to, if possible, if the board would permit, like, just very brief argument.
Yeah, in a moment, we'll get to argument both by you and the city.
Okay.
I guess, Mr. Harris, I'm just trying to come to terms with what's the basis of the appeal. Is there something that you believe the city did unfairly or inappropriately?
No, we think that the violation is what it is. There was construction. There was illegal construction. We're not going to play any games and say that didn't occur without permits. What we're asking for is that, and I don't know what advice she was getting before, but what we're asking for is an affirm of this with a stay to allow my client time to be able to get the permits, to get the zoning so she can get the permits. She's not renting the property now. She's not trying to make any money. She recognizes that she's made errors and she's trying to correct it now. So we have no objection to a city affirming of this because we know that the violations it happened, that the work happened.
I apologize to council. I realize that we're in closing arguments, but Mr. Harris, the appeal papers indicate that your client, had a tenant occupying the property at some time. The tenant property is occupied? and tenant refuses to allow access. Can you tell us how long the property was occupied?
Ms. Kennedy, can you answer that question,
When
please?
and for how long?
During that time, the property did have a tenant. That tenant moved out, and because I had all the violations and vandalism and things like that, my aunt stays there and babysits the property, but she also lives 2 doors over, so nobody can go in and out of the property, but there's no tenant in there. Just my aunt.
I think you misunderstood my question, Ms. Kennedy. You said that the property on your appeal papers at the time, you say the property was occupied. Can you please tell us from what period to what period the property was occupied by a tenant?
I think that, I don't know the direct answer, but it probably on the Eclipse when I applied for the renter's license, because I did have a renter's license at that point.
Was the property occupied during the year of 2022?
I don't think so. I can't remember. No, no, if the violation was in 2022, I got the violations when the tenant was there.
Okay, thanks. Thank you very much.
Yeah, just
Can I
one quick
follow up to that, just to kind of clear that
Yes.
up, if I could?
Yes.
After you got the violation, because it looks like you applied for this in 2023, you applied for the appeal. Was there a tenant at the time when you filed an appeal? I guess
Yes.
that's the first question.
Yes.
How soon after you filed the appeal at some point the tenant left, correct?
Yes.
Okay. How soon after you filed the appeal did the tenant leave?
I can't remember.
Was it during that year of 2023?
Probably so.
Would it have been in?
When I had the David Denenberg as attorney, he filed that appeal, and he also filed eviction for the tenant. And when the tenant got the eviction notice, that's when the tenant left. So I think it's all around in the same time frame.
Okay. And so, and Mr. Denenberg filed for the eviction around the same time that you filed the instant appeal in January 2023, right?
I don't think he had to file for the eviction. He sent out a notice to the tenant, and when the tenant got the notice, the tenant left. So I didn't have to go through the court process.
Okay. And was that shortly after, within a month or two after the notice was sent out by Mr. Denenberg that the tenant left?
Yes. Yes.
All right. I don't have any further questions.
Okay, thank you very much. Just one follow-up minor thing. Ms. Kennedy, I think your testimony is that you aren't certain if your contractor who submitted the permit applications is licensed by the city of Philadelphia?
Yes.
Is that the individual you plan to use to correct any of the outstanding violation?
Yes. Okay.
I'm sure your lawyer can give you some better advice, so I won't attempt to do that. But if you're going to, your contractor should be licensed and able to acquire a permit for the city of Philadelphia if he's going to do that work.
He did apply for the permit.
I'm saying he must be licensed.
Yes, he's licensed.
How do you said you didn't know?
I guess I didn't know.
I just asked you, or were you serious?
No, I thought you were talking about the original contractor that built it.
Yes, and I asked, is that the same person who will be correcting the violation?
No, not the same person. No, I'm not going through that.
Okay, all right, thank you. Okay, let's move on then. Let's get to the point of final argument. Mr. Harris, if you have any argument, we'd like to hear from you, and then we'll hear from Ms. Paschal.
I kind of touched on it. I don't really necessarily, I don't know if I have to be too in depth with it again. We understand that the work was done without permits. So there's no dispute about that. We're just asking for a stay of 120 days to allow time for my client to get in compliance. This is a process that she's been going through for a while. Fortunately, since this appeal has been filed, she's not collecting any rent from this. And she's just trying to do the right things. I mean, she's on the right track now, and we're asking for reasonable time. She's already has lost a lot of money by not collecting any rents. We're asking for there to be a stay so that way there's not further potential daily fines that would be accruing while my client is trying to get this correct. She's and we just ask that you take into account her attitude, the steps that she's taken, and that's all I have to say.
Ms. Paschal?
Yes, Chairman Woodson and members of the board. We ask that you affirm these violations. It doesn't sound like they themselves are being contested, and the city would argue that no say in this matter is appropriate. The reason the city argues that is because we saw on Ms. Kennedy's appeal paperwork that the appeal was filed in January of 2023. We are here 2 years later, and there was only a zoning permit applied for as of Friday, probably afternoon, because I would submit to the board. It wasn't in there in the Exhibit 6. There was no issuance or evidence of a zoning permit. So, members of the board, the fact that Ms. Kennedy waited until December of 2024 to attempt to get a building permit that still hasn't been issued, and last Friday to try and get a zoning permit, when this matter has been scheduled for an appeal since 2 years ago, frankly, she had a stay. The stay was the past 2 years where she could have cleared these matters up. She didn't do that. She waited until the last possible minute. And furthermore, members of the board, you heard that it wasn't even a licensed contractor who built these multiple decks and porches. And furthermore, the work wasn't even up to code. So therefore, who knows if she will be successful whatsoever in obtaining any of these permits, zoning or building. So therefore, the city would ask that you would affirm the violations and do not give a stay.
And Your Honor, if I could just briefly state a response.
Mr. Harris, unless you're going to open something completely new, we generally don't
Okay.
boring closing statements.
No problem.
Okay. I think the underlying facts are not contested. The issue is how do we proceed? We're going to take 2 minutes. I need to consult with my colleagues for 2 minutes off the record. With regard to HA-2023-000526-5911 Windsor Street, ELK Enterprises, LLC, city affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
City affirmed.
Okay, Mr. Harris, the unanimous vote is city affirmed. Sir, as you know, you may appeal our decision to the Court of Common Pleas. Thank you very much for your patience. All the witnesses are excused.
Thank you.
Okay, let's move on. I think we have one more matter before we recall the last case.
Number 47. sir.
Number 47.
Hearing appeal ending 0794-5442 Stewart Street. Ernestine Vaughn is the appellant.
Okay, who's representing the city?
Good afternoon, Amy Skiles on behalf of the city of Philadelphia.
Good afternoon, Ms. Skiles. You have a witness for us today?
Yes, my witness would be Inspector Alston Duck.
Okay, I don't see him. Ms. Kennedy, I know you're still with us. You're permitted to stay if you like, but your case is over, so you're free to go if you'd like. Okay. And I'm calling for Ernestine Vaughn. Is Ernestine Vaughn present? Ernestine Vaughn. Anyone present representing the interests of 5442 Stewart Street? Anyone present?
Ms. Vaughn listed 5442 Stewart Street is her address. Notice of this hearing was sent to that address on 12/12/2024.
Thank you very much. No one's responding. Ms. Skiles, what is your pleasure?
We would ask for a city affirm for non-appearance.
Thank you. Mr. Pincus, what time do we have?
3:26 p.m.
3:26 p.m. We will now poll the board regarding HA 2024-000794 5442 Stewart Street, Ernestine Vaughn, city affirmed, non-appearance.
City affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirmed for non-appearance.
City affirmed for non-appearance.
Thank you very much. That resolves that matter. The board will take a 5-minute break. It's now 3:26. We will come back at 3:31. Thank you. Record. Mr. Kelly, as per usual, when you prepare for me, just let me know. Okay, thank you very much. We're going to recall number 13, which is HA 2024-000097, 805 South Front Street. Arthur Gibbs doing business as Veterans of Foreign Wars, Post 8051. And I do know council are present for the city.
Thank you. Again, Leonard F. Reuter, Senior Attorney, City of Philadelphia.
Okay, and for the appellant, I don't see him. Mr. Hirschman has not returned. Okay, well, let's wait for a moment then until he's with us.
I see a couple of his potential witnesses are present. If maybe they could reach out to Mr. Hirschman, text him and tell him we're back.
Okay, gentlemen, if you would do that, that would be helpful. Okay.
Hello, I'm sorry. Am I holding people up?
Well, you're here now. Thank you.
I so apologize. I'll
No
pick
problem.
time to try and run out.
Okay, let's do just. I just want to put a preliminary matters on the record. This is a complex matter. It has a lot of moving parts, but I think the role that this board plays is fairly simple and straightforward. So we are not here today to hear the Art Commission hearings be relitigated. Not part of what we're going to hear today. We are here to determine whether or not the Art Commission abused its authority and its power when it made its decision on a date certain. And so that's what I'd asked the parties to focus on why you believe the Art Commission did not act properly and or why they did act properly and what evidence you have to support that. And if you need a witness to confirm that, that's fine. I will also say to you that we will limit your initial presentations to about 20 minutes. We want to move through this as efficiently as we can. And so if need be, I will cut in when there's a need to be more succinct and direct in your questioning. And also, if you have objections, you can put them on the record. But once, of course, the objection is noted and decided, we will move on. Thank you so much. Mr. Rodder, do you have any witnesses for us today?
Again, for purposes of this hearing, because the city agrees that the board is reviewing the propriety of the Art Commission's decision and this is not a de novo appeal. Again, we've submitted the record of the commission. The appellants have submitted a number of their documents. We both reserve the right to present additional documents if necessary. But again, I think the authenticity of all the documents has been stipulated to, and it's the city's position that it's primarily legal argument, which is whether, based upon the record that you have from the Art Commission, as well as the documents presented by the appellants, it's the city's position that on the basis of that record, the Art Commission's decision was not clearly erroneous, and that therefore this board is obligated to affirm that decision. So we don't have witnesses. We can go through the documents to present, highlight some of the things that the Art Commission reviewed, and also, again, indicate, the number of people that were present at successive Art Commission meetings and whatnot. So I'm not sure who goes first here.
Well, Mr. Rodder, if you were okay with it, I would ask Mr. Hirschman to do that, given his appeal. And sir, if you're prepared, I'd like to hear from you.
I'm sorry, you would ask me to do what, Mr. Chairman?
To move forward, to make the initial presentation of facts as you understand them and move forward.
I do. I agree with what Mr. Roeder said. I still, regardless, have 3 witnesses who were present at these hearings that we're talking about. It's Edward Mazurak, Patrick Daly, and Art Gibbs. They're all present here.
Okay, if they're prepared to testify specifically as to why they believe the Art Commission did not follow its own rules, for instance, in coming to its decision, then that's okay.
Okay, good.
as I said, we are not going to relitigate the Art Commission hearing. Whether or not it's a good idea or a bad idea is not relevant for today's hearing.
I understand what you're saying. Well, then may I?
But that's what we're going to do. So let's proceed.
Okay, then I'm going to proceed. I'm going to share my screen.
Yes.
And I'm going to try to set the framework that's going to allow you to.
And Mr. Hirschman,
Yeah.
the framework must be limited. We're not going to do this ad infinitum, understand?
I do understand. So if
Thank you.
I'm going to try, because I will admit, that's not my plan of action or way of doing things, but I will comply with what the board is asking me to do, which is to streamline this. But I
Thank you.
still need to be able to provide the framework. The framework.
Thank you so much.
On appeal, I'll get started. This is it. Is the fact that there was a statue of peace that was placed in Queen Village, and did they comply with Directive 67? Going to get right to it, if you will allow me. And I believe that this will help clarify. We get it. We don't need that. Boom. Here's the proposal. Proposals for a statue to commemorate a history of comfort women as part of a worldwide reconciliation movement. The statue will be located in such and such. This is the statue. This is important. I hope you can see this. The Statue of Peace memorialized more than 2,000 women who were removed from their homes in Korea, China, Taiwan, Japan, the Philippines, Thailand. You will notice that none of these people, none of these women, not trying to diminish what happened here, were from the United States, let alone from Philadelphia. And this was perpetrated by the Japanese Imperial Army. So it was the Japanese Imperial Army. Again, this is important because this statue is a tinderbox, which is why it's so important to my client, Arthur Gibbs, VFW Post 8051, which is also on the 800 block of South Front Street. Okay, so this is the part where you don't want me to get too far into it, but I will tell you this. Directive 67, it has been held, has the force and effect of law. It is the policy. This is the framework. I'm going to switch out of this because I don't think you want me to go through my slideshow, but I'm just going to bring up Directive 67. All right, here's the objectives. Here's the general requirements. And here goes the important ones. For proposals of commemorative monuments to an individual, an event.
Mr. Hirschman, you're not currently sharing your screen. We're not.
Oh, thank you so much. See, I'm moving too quick. Thank you for letting me know. Can you see it?
Yes.
Sorry about that. This is the City of Philadelphia. I'm going to call it Directive 67. I'm trusting that board members are familiar enough that I can move quickly. If you want me to slow down, I certainly can.
Yes.
Okay. Here is the important part. There are requirements. Okay. General requirements. Important for commemorative monuments, which this is, as it was defined in its own proposal. They must be and will only be considered for those persons or events that are evidence to have made significant contributions to Philadelphia, have had a significant impact on Philadelphia and beyond, and represent broadly shared community values. That's 3. Within number 2, all have to be met. For paragraph 3, there must be a strong thematic and or historical association between the subject or the artist and the location, as well as appropriate formal connection to the proposed site. In general, there must be a specific geographic justification for the monument being located at the site. Number 4, I do not have it highlighted here, but you can see the city does not permit installation of monuments to living persons, and a minimum of 10 years between an event or a person's death must have passed in order for this to have, for it to even be considered. And I'm going to tell you right now that the evidence will show that there are still comfort women alive. So how this one ever got out of the starting gate is a mystery. Sorry, I'm going to stop my share. I would like to move on to the minutes, what the Art Commission relied on. Okay, there were different meetings that were held where they would hear from the, where they would hear from the community. And if we start with this one here, which is September 19th, 2022. You will see their commentators were limited, but the JAGP,
There's no, are you attempting to share your screen again? Because there's nothing, there aren't any images up.
I am. I'm going to slow down. Try and be better because I am moving a little bit too quick. I have to open it up first. What I'd like to share with you now is a question and answer session. It is our Exhibit E. This is question and answers that were presented. They were posted after a March 11th, 2022 town hall. I'll try and go through this quickly.
Just one question for you. Is this a question and answer at one of the Art Commission hearings or a different public forum?
This is a question and answer that was submitted after one of the hearings.
So this is not a record of proceedings during the Art Commission meetings?
No.
Does it reflect anything, does it reflect at all on the Art Commission decisions?
Well, it was posted after the Art Commission hearing by the presenters for the Art Commission. It was also supplied as part of the exhibits.
But was it posted by the Art Commission?
It was posted by the EEAOC.
Okay, Mr. Rowder, you have a response?
Yeah, I mean, I think the city can stipulate that this document and that the Statue of Peace Town Hall meeting that took place is part of the record that was considered by the Art Commission. This was not a town hall that was held by the commission itself, but was held by the city office. That is the Philadelphia Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy, OACCE, and the Philadelphia Commission on Human Relations and the Office of Immigrant Affairs. So that was all part of the build-ups to the commission's decisions.
Okay, all right, thank you. All right, let's proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Rowder. I appreciate that. I want to point out that the applicant is the Philadelphia Peace Plaza Committee, not the Korean Association of Philadelphia. That's important. I want to point out here that the only answer we've ever really gotten as to how this Statue of Peace complies with the Managing Director 67 is this here, and it's been repeated more than once. It complies with Directive 67 because it represents cities' broadly shared values to promote peace, justice, and healing of victims of sexual slavery, and shed light upon stories of women that have not been told. It also represents Asian communities which have significant impact on Philadelphia, but are not well represented in the city's public art. Also, the proposed theme of military sexual violence has a strong connection with other military works of public art that are located nearby, such as the Korean War and Vietnam memorials. When I get to my closing, I'm going to repeat that this answer in no way complies with Directive 67. I'm also going to prove throughout these documents that there was nothing that shows compliance with Directive 67. But the other thing that I'm trying to bring up is the fact that the responses that were received by the Art Commission showed that this particular statue, which is not unique, which is prevalent throughout the world, is a tinderbox. It is divisive. It does result in protests. With that, I'm going to move on, and I think that I will call my first witness, which is Mr. Ed Mazurak, who was present, but I'll let him testify. Mr. Mazurak, Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yes. Mr. Mazurak,
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
if you raise your right hand to be sworn, do you swear or affirm the testimony you will give be the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Mazurak, can you just state for the board who you are and how you are connected to this particular issue that's before the board?
Yes, I am a civil rights attorney. In the fall of 2021, I was retained by the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia in connection with its opposition to this statue. And I represented the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia. Shorthand references the JAGP before the Art Commission, and with respect to submissions to the city, the Art Commission, and the Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative. I don't remember the agency name. The OACCE, Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Empowerment.
Thank you, Mr. Mazurak. Mr. Mazurak, were you present at any of the hearings that the Art Commission held in regard to the Peace Plaza proposal?
Yes, I was present at all of them.
You were present at all. I would like to share my screen. This is meeting minutes, in particular from a meeting that was held virtually. And this was on September 14th. Once again, I have the wrong one. I apologize. I appreciate the board's patience with me as I try to navigate this. And I appreciate your patience, Mr. Mazurak. I am going to share with the board. Yes, thank you. Mr. Mazurak, it's my understanding you were at all of the meetings. What I'm showing you now are meeting minutes from, man.
Could you try to make that a little larger? I know these technological things are a challenge. At least for me, they are. So there you go. Thank you.
So what I'm showing you here is September 19th, 2022, a remote Zoom meeting. Mr. Mazurak, do you recall if you were present at that time?
Yes, I was.
I note that sorry, apparently it won't allow me to do it. There were questions and comments. I'm just going to review that. This here, if you could read that for me.
Just because each page is not labeled, just unless when you go, would you just reference the fact that it's the same meeting? So we know that we're on the same document.
And I'm now on page 3 of this particular meeting minutes.
Okay, thank you.
And there are questions and comments from the public. And Mr. Mazurak, I'm going to represent to you that right here in red, board members, these highlights, I think you understand, are mine. They were not on the document itself. At that meeting, you represented the JAGP, correct?
Yes.
And did you offer the JAGP's position in regard to the Statue of Peace?
Yes, I provided a written presentation to the Art Commission prior to the public hearing at its request, and then I made that written presentation at the actual meeting.
Can you briefly just describe to the board the points that you made in regard to the JAGP's opposition to the Statue of Peace?
Yes, I referenced the fact that my client viewed this statue as very divisive and derisive of Japanese people and Japanese Americans, given the fact that this statue is part of an international movement on the part of a small minority of Korean reactionaries to embarrass and vilify the Japanese.
Object to the characterization.
Mr. Mazurak?
Yes.
There's an objection, and the objection is to the adjectives, the characterization of those who are promoting this particular art installation. So I just ask that you would just, I'm going to sustain the objection and ask that you would just rephrase your comments.
But if I may, Mr. Chairman, he is describing what he said to the board. The characterization is just his description of the words that he used at the hearing, and I think they're significant.
Okay,
Well, we don't have I mean, we could get.
we don't
one.
have a
We
transcript
don't
for the
have a
record.
transcript,
Yeah.
But, that, we'll just note
It's-
it as a standing objection.
Yeah,
That's
we
fine.
noted for the record, and I would ask both of you, all parties, be clear that we are here deciding a different issue. We are not refighting the decision. Okay, why or why not? Okay?
Yes, and consistent with that.
And
Chairman-
Mr. Hirschman, I
Yeah.
think we're going to have the record's been submitted, so
Okay.
if he doesn't have to repeat what's in the
Very good.
document that we're reviewing, that we
I
have
wanna-
an exhibit.
I'm sorry, Mr. Pincus. I apologize for cutting you off.
No,
I'm trying to convey to the board the outrage that my client feels. I'm trying to convey to the board how the Art Commission seemed to have not actually listened to the comments that were being made. I'm going to move on, Mr. Mazurak. You said you submitted a documentation in advance of this hearing, and then you repeated that to the board? I'm sorry,
Yeah.
to the commission?
Yes, and consistent with Chairman Woodson's and Mr. Pincus's comments, I did submit a presentation to the board in writing and made it at the meeting, and I made the various points, this very strong objections that my client had to this statute. But in addition to that, I also focused on Directive 67 that binds the city and binds the Art Commission to limit its consideration of commemorative monuments. And I specifically pointed out paragraph 2 of Directive 67 and paragraph 3 of Directive 67. And as you indicated in your opening statement, this statute representing Korean comfort women has absolutely no connection with Philadelphia or Queen Village. None of these comfort women were evidenced, and I quote paragraph 2 of Directive 67, to have made significant contributions to Philadelphia.
Okay.
None of these comfort women have had a significant impact on Philadelphia and beyond.
Mr.
And these
Mazurak, hold on. You're going to get me in trouble because we're all making our closing arguments. I agree with you. I agree with you, and I'm sorry to cut you off because I want to get to something good before the board, I fear, says, let's streamline this. So I apologize. Please don't be offended, but please allow me to move on. Okay?
Your case.
Thank you. I understand, Mr. Mazurak. I also wanted to point, let me get back to that. Mr. Mazurak, you said you submitted documentation. Included in that documentation, I believe there were many photographs.
Yes, in the presentation that I submitted, there were photographs.
I'm going to show you some. Can you tell me if these were what you submitted? Did you submit that?
I'm not seeing it on my screen.
Can the other board members see what I just brought up?
Yes.
Ed, are you not able to?
There we go. Yes, I see. Yes, I see that. Yes, that was a photograph that I submitted in my presentation.
And it is a Japanese flag being burnt, and you can see right over there. That's a comfort statue.
Yes, that is a replica of the Comfort Woman statue that was proposed for Front Street in Queen Village between Queen and Catherine Streets.
I'm going to show you a few more. Can you just confirm these were submitted to the Art Commission?
Yes, I submitted that. Yes, I submitted that photograph as well. Yes, I submitted that photograph as well. Yes, I submitted those photographs as well.
Are you familiar with these photographs? And the captions that are there?
Yes.
Can you describe what you told the Art Commission in regards to these photographs?
That all of these photographs represent the virulent and at times violent feelings that a minority of some Koreans have toward Japanese people. And my clients, the Japanese American Association of Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia, strongly oppose bringing that kind of antipathy and divisiveness to our city, specifically in Queen Village.
How about this? Go ahead.
The photograph that is there now is a photograph of the United States Ambassador Mark Lippert just having been slashed in the face with a knife by a Korean comfort woman statue supporter in
Okay,
2000.
Mr. Hirschman, I'm going to ask that you rein this in.
Okay,
Again, we're looking for what's specifically related to what we're doing here.
okay, thank you. Mr. Mazurak, you indicated that that you attended all of the meetings for the Art Commission in regard to the Comfort Women Peace Plaza proposal, correct?
Yes. Yes, that is correct.
And in each one, did you voiced opposition? Did others voice opposition?
Yes, most of the people who participated in those meetings voiced opposition.
Mr. Mazurak, I'm going to discontinue my questions at this time.
Okay, is he available for cross?
Yes, I'll maintain my availability, Chairman.
Pardon me?
I will maintain my availability, Chairman.
Thank you.
Correction.
Mr. Ryder, any cross-examination?
Sure, just a few questions. Mr. Mazurak, just so we're clear for the record, you are an attorney
Yes, I am.
and you are retained as counsel to the Japanese American Group?
Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia.
Sorry, I apologize. Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia. Now, would you, leaving aside your objection regarding Directive 67, would you agree that the Art Commission and the city's the 3 or 4 agencies of the city that had the town meetings and were present at the Art Commission meeting, would you agree that the city Art Commission and its agencies gave ample opportunity for your clients to appear and voice their objections?
I would agree that we were given superficial ample opportunity, but I do not agree that the Art Commission gave my clients and others due consideration for the various points that were made.
So your primary objection with respect to that is that you believe that your objections were not given the weight that you thought that the commission ought to give them. Is that fair characterization?
No, they were ignored. That is a fair characterization.
Well, I just want to clarify the question that Mr. Reuter asked. Did your clients have an ample opportunity to make their opposition known? I believe that was the first question that he asked. Did they have an opportunity to make their opposition known to the Art Commission and other city agencies? And that's a yes or no.
Yeah, well, my
yes
answer
or
to that then is no.
Okay, thank you.
So again, your attorney here, Mr. Hirschman, had shown you a document that indicated that the initial application and just for brevity's sake, we'll just call the Peace Plaza, that application indicated that it was specifically to commemorate comfort women that were involved and the Japanese imperial forces in Asia. That correct? That was the original application, is that right?
Yes, and that it was to be erected in Queen Village, Philadelphia, which has no connection with Comfort Women at all.
Okay, and again, with respect to the number of meetings that were held by the Art Commission, would you agree that the Art Commission, in fact, had numerous meetings regarding the Peace Plaza? Is that right?
Well, numerous. They had more than one. I think there were at least 2.
Okay, well, in fact, you said that you were at every meeting of the Art Commission. Weren't there at least 4 meetings of the Art Commission?
It would not surprise me if there were 4 meetings at the Art Commission.
Okay, so, and you would agree that the Art Commission approved the statue and the installation itself back in October of 2022, is that right?
It gave a conditional approval subject to further actions to be taken by the Art Commission with respect to the statue.
Okay, so, but again, the commission approved just the statue and they left the determination of what would be reflected in the text accompanying the statue for a later time, isn't that right?
No, the inscription language was inextricably connected with the statue itself. So the approval of the statue was conditional upon eventual approval or disapproval of the inscription language.
Okay, but then again, no appeal was taken from the decision of the commission to approve that statute, subject to subsequent approval of the text. Isn't that right?
That's true, because there was no final determination made at that time.
I'm sorry, objection. I'm not certain if I may. I don't want to interrupt counsel.
Yes,
Not
what's the
certain if
objection?
he's asking Mr. Mazurak questions as if he were a party to this, or if he's asking him questions as the representative of the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia.
Well, okay, I'd ask Mr. Ryder if you would just rephrase, please.
Well, again, I mean, Mr. Mazurak has indicated that he was the counsel retained by the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia, which by definition means he was their agent, i.e. he was standing in their shoes. So yes, as both himself as counsel to the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia, but he's basically in that capacity was the
That's not, I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt you, counsel. Again, no, I
not sure what the
wasn't certain
objection
if you're
is, to be
asking him
honest.
questions regarding the timeliness of the appeal that were subject to the earlier determination.
Well,
Like, this is not my client, is what I'm saying.
no, again, I think what the city's position is what we're trying to nail down is what exactly is what is the appeal? And again, the city's position is that at best, the appeal is about the text and not the statute. The statute was approved, and we disagree with the characterization that the Art Commission did not make a final determination about the statute back in October. So, you know, we can rehash that if we want, but.
Okay, before that, gentlemen, this is what we'll do. I've heard the objection. I've asked Mr. Ryder to rephrase, and we're going to move on so that we can get to the substance of this.
Sure. Now, again, Mr. Mazurak, again, you had indicated that you were at several meetings of the Art Commission. Were you at Art Commission meetings in April?
Yes.
2023?
Yes, I'm sorry, yes.
Okay. And were you present for the entire discussion regarding the Peace Plaza?
Yes.
Okay. And isn't it true that commissioners did in fact respond to objections and concerns that were raised about the narrow focus, the original narrow focus of the text of the statute, and suggested that it be broadened?
Yes, the commission members were somewhat vague and unclear about their views on the text. One of the commission members believed that any reference to the Japanese Imperial Army from 80 years ago should be stricken because he thought that that was divisive and offensive, and that was in the meeting. Other members wanted it broadened to be more of a universal tribute against violence toward women. But the Art Commission did discuss language, and the various commission members had different points of view.
Okay. And have you seen the final text that was ultimately agreed upon?
I saw the final text that was conditionally approved by the Art Commission in April.
All right. If I could just share my screen then with the board's permission.
Yes.
Take a minute. All right, can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Now, I'm not going to ask you to read the whole thing, but just so the board just identify the document. And again, I think we've all stipulated to the authenticity of these documents. This is the Philadelphia Peace Plaza and Statue of Peace. It indicates Seo Kyung Kim and Unsung Kim. That's a husband and wife team that were responsible for the Statue of Peace throughout the statues of peace throughout the world. Would you agree, Mr. Mazurak, that the language now specifically limits the reference to the Japanese Imperial Army to their sexual slavery system from 1931 to 1945 and specifies during World War II?
Well, I would agree that the
It either
language that,
says it or it doesn't. That's a kind of a yes or no question.
well, we can all read it, Mr.
Okay.
Reuter.
And you'll agree that that's what it says. And would you agree that the statement is correct that the Japanese Imperial Army existed from the mid-1800s to 1945?
I don't know that for certain. I'm not a historian. I know that there are various historical differences from historians based on with respect to the comfort women.
Okay, I'm asking. Well, let me ask you this then. As representative, as representative of the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia, would you agree that your clients at least understand that the Japanese Imperial Army ceased to exist in 1945?
Yes, we do agree with that.
The end of the
Yes.
war? Okay. So you would then agree then that the commemoration, the language that's indicated here in the first paragraph does not imply or indicate or suggest in any way that this is a system that either the Japanese Imperial Army or the sexual slavery system that was instituted or the things that were referenced here that were attributed to the Japanese Imperial Army are ongoing.
No, I don't agree with that. I think that this language and the reference to the Japanese history on that is intended to keep those historical wounds open. And I do know that this language on its face proves beyond the shadow of a doubt that this statute does not comply with Directive 67 because it has absolutely nothing to do
Again, I'm
with
gonna have to
Philadelphia.
object and ask that the testimony be limited. We're not.
Mr.
We'll
Missouri?
get to Directive 67 eventually. but-
Yeah, Mr. Missouri, please be more specific in your responses.
So, again, Mr. Mazurek, if I understand correctly, then the objection that you and your clients have to the reference to the Japanese Imperial Army and the nefarious activities that took place at that time, the objection is primarily that it is opening old wounds.
Well, that it's intended to vilify Japanese people and Japanese Americans today, and it does not comply with Directive 67.
Again, is there anything in this inscription that references Japanese Americans or contemporary Japanese people anywhere?
Yes, there's the repeated references to Japanese.
Well, all right. I'll move on then. So again, would you also, again, looking through the rest of the language, would you also agree that with the third paragraph, that the third paragraph says, as an open public space for contemplation and gathering, the plaza calls our attention to the often silent stories of survivors of ongoing sexual violence around the world and the resilient efforts to build a peaceful future?
What's the
Is there
question?
anything- Does that statement say anything about the Japanese or Japan?
It does in the context of that overall inscription, which references
Again, I'm talking
Japanese
about the
people
third paragraph.
repeatedly.
Okay. And I think at this point, I have no further questions.
Okay, thank you. Any additional witnesses, Mr. Hirschman?
May I have redirect?
Yes.
Mr. Mazurek, when you were at the hearing and you brought up Directive 67 to the commission, was there any response regarding compliance with Directive 67 in relation to connection to the city of Philadelphia?
Never. The Art Commission, neither the Art Commission nor any other interested person in this whole proceeding at any Art Commission hearing ever adduced any evidence that this statue made significant contributions to Philadelphia or have had a significant impact on Philadelphia or represented broadly shared community values, or that there was a strong thematic or historical association between this and Queen Village, Philadelphia. Never, ever.
And in regard to the inscription that you just reviewed, was it ever made clear why the Japanese army was singled out in relation to this proposed comforting for sexual violence all over the entire globe?
Well, no explanation was ever given other than that this statue and the inscription is consistent with this international movement that certain Korean reactionaries have, a small minority, with respect to this issue and their desire to vilify Japanese people even today.
I believe I have no further questions, but I would like
Thank
to
you.
reserve the right to call Mr. Mazurek again if I need him.
Do you have any additional witnesses?
I do, but I'd like to
Okay.
continue with the exhibit that we were on.
Okay, now, I indicated earlier, we've been at this nearly 40 minutes, so I'm going to ask that you move on.
Mr.
quickly.
Chairman, I will gladly move on. I'm really trying to be compliant. I had indicated that this was a complex issue, that they did not comply with Directive 67, including the portions that say that this has to be accepted by the community. I'd like to point out now from this current slide, I have, can you see this?
Yeah, multiple items up. What are we focusing? There we go.
We're
Make it
back
larger,
to-
please.
We're again looking at the Zoom remote meeting. And what I've done is I've just,
What date are we focusing on?
this is still September 19th, 2022.
Okay, and what page are you on?
I'm now going to page 4. And what
Okay.
I've done, again, this is my highlights.
Okay,
Highlights indicate that a voice was heard, and red is opposition, green is support. So you can see the oppositions there that are clearly outweighing the support. I don't want to get into it, but I will note that some of the support are for people from San Francisco. This was a remote remote hearing.
Mr. Hirschman, are you suggesting that they vote if a vote is taken to determine what the hearing members, the attendees rather, are supporting?
No, what I'm going to show is that included in Directive 67 is a responsibility to see if there is support within the community where this proposed piece of art is going to be placed. And I'm
Okay.
showing that there is an overwhelming opposition. If you count up, and I'm being generous, this particular meeting,
Okay, now, you referenced
32.
a couple of times the specific location. What are you defining as community? Is it Philadelphia? Is it Center City? Or what are you defining as
it was defined by the Art Commission as Queen Village.
Queen Village? Okay, and you will be able to identify persons who reside in Queen Village who are objecting and or supporting?
If you give me a chance, I most certainly will, including
Okay.
petitions
Okay.
signed by over 176 members of that community. When I present Mr. Gibbs later on, there was
Okay.
a petition. But right now, this is in regard to what the Art Commission received. This is the Art Commission's record. The Art Commission on this day, there were 32 people who voiced some position. Being generous, I will say that 7 were unclear. 7 clearly supported and 18 opposed. I would say that way more opposed than supported. I'm going to stop my share. I'm going to move on to the next meeting minutes. Thank you for bearing with me. I will try and be quick, Mr. Chairman. I do understand. This is the meeting minutes. This is from September 14th. The Art Commission received 17 written comments via email. Of those 17, 4 were in support, 13 were in opposition. Okay, without going through all those, again, a lot of them are indicating their opposition because it's so derisive and because that the history is not clear. And they were given links about articles from around the world that show that this is not a small matter.
But wait a minute, who's providing those links?
The people who are submitting.
Okay, but that is not within the purview of the Art
record.
Commission.
That is part of the record. This is taken from there. Look, it is right here.
Okay, that link is in the record. Okay.
Okay, they're trying to show the Art Commission that this is not just a small matter. This is international. You're bringing an international issue to our community. And they show them over and over again. You can get full books about these comfort women, and they're not all from the same position. Again, I think that you are understanding my position here, what I'm trying to say. I'm going through very quickly because you have these records, but I ask that you would review these meeting minutes and see just how vehemently people are opposed. And some of the information that's being provided, labeling this anti-Japanese sentiment by some of the authors, by South Koreans who are being vilified. I want to point out how other issues were brought up. People brought up other communities. And what I'm trying to show here is that this is a tinderbox. One of the reasons why my client was so opposed to this being erected just on the same block as the Veteran of Foreign Wars post. I'd like to also point out that some of the individuals who supported it, they supported it because they are a part of another, the global movement to have these comfort women statues placed elsewhere. I'll move on to another exhibit. Sorry, trying to stop share. At this point, I don't want to become cumulative. I'm very much trying to be respectful of the board's request. But I will ask that they do certainly review each of these.
Oh, the board is committed to doing that, sir. So
Thank you.
can
Oh,
just-
then I'm just going to point out that there were numerous comments made. The majority are not supportive. If you look at all of
And again, Mr. Hirschman, I have to say to you that given the access from the international community to these meetings, it would be more impactful if we knew that those objectors were local residents. At this point, we have no understanding. Some of them are from the West Coast and various parts of the world.
Those were the supporters, sir. Those were the
Well,
supporters.
but that's the point. There are people from all over the world commenting on this when we're making a Philadelphia decision.
Well, then I'll take my cue from you, sir. I'm going to move on to my next witness. I will move on to Mr. Patrick Daly. Mr.
Thank
Daly?
you. Mr. Daly, if you'd unmute yourself and raise your right hand so that you may be sworn. I don't think I swore you in earlier.
No one was sworn in
Okay.
collectively.
Mr. Daly, do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth to help you God?
Yes, I do.
All right, thank you very much. You can lower your hand.
And Mr. Daly, thank you for coming in today. Mr. Daly, can you just provide the board with just your background, where you're from, where you were educated?
I was born and raised and educated in Philadelphia. I was a commissioned officer in the United States Marine Corps, and I served in Japan for 4 years, where I learned to speak and read Japanese.
And are you familiar with the peace proposal project?
Yes, I am. I'm also a board member of the the Japanese Association of Greater Philadelphia.
Can you do me a favor and describe to the board what your organization is, what it does?
It's a community organization that's really here to give the Japanese, who are largely researchers or medical professionals or business people like Subaru of America, a sort of a soft landing, helping them get settled here in Philadelphia for the 2 or 3 years that they are residents.
Thank you. And do you have an understanding of the Peace Plaza, and in particular, do you have an understanding, I'm sorry, strike that. Do you have an understanding of what the Statue of Peace is?
Very much so. It's a, as I would call it, it's a factory statue. There are, I think, 70 of these statues around the world, mostly in Korea. They're mass produced. And it's something that's, I would say, in almost every case outside of Korea, and sometimes within Korea, they're extremely, divisive. They start protests, and it's not just between Japanese and Koreans.
Are you aware of any conversations or negotiations between Japan and Korea itself in regards to these statues of peace?
It's my understanding that the Korean administration just changed, but the former president of Korea was trying to put this behind them and there was no reason to keep bringing this up, and that the support for it in Korea has in fact waned considerably.
But it is known by the governments themselves, that is the Japanese government and the Korean government.
Very much so.
You said very much so?
Yes.
Okay. And does your organization, did it have a position on the Statue of Peace? Oppose, support?
No, we're a nonprofit organization. We can't take any political positions on things, but the membership themselves, we sent over 100 letters from our members who are in the Philadelphia area to the Art Commission, very much in opposition to this statue, only because of the trouble they seem to stir up.
I'll note for the board that these submissions, these exhibits, these letters have been submitted, but because they were submitted back for the December 3rd, 2024 hearing. If you need me to send them again, I'm sorry to interrupt you, Mr. Daly. Mr. Daly, did you attend any of the meetings that were held by the Art Commission?
Yes, I believe I attended all of them.
Did you voice your or the position that you had in regard to the Statue of Peace?
When I was given opportunity, the experience of most of the people, and I'm including over 70 people against the statue, they just were not given a time to have their positions heard or their comments heard. So yes, we all raised our hands and got in the queue, but it seemed like the Art Commission had lost interest and wanted to move on, and so just cut everything short.
When you say they lost interest in your position?
In hearing the position of everyone who had taken the time to come to the meeting.
Again, Mr. Hirschman, there's no information or evidence to suggest that the Art Commission didn't consider everyone's position.
This is the
This
is the evidence.
Listen to me. The individuals who came, stood in line, put their positions on the record. That's what you do. Beyond that, I'm not certain what should have been done by the Art Commission to reflect something different.
Well, what should have been done by the Art Commission, which is going to be my argument, is that they should have listened to this overwhelming opposition.
But how do we know they didn't? They just didn't agree.
Well, here's Mr. Daly. I've submitted these hearing minutes, which show overwhelmingly that there's opposition. And most importantly, we're going to get to it. No one has provided any evidence of compliance with Directive 67.
Okay.
And
Let's hear
Directive
that.
67 includes.
It seems to me that compliance with Directive 67 is the most is core to this argument.
It is. It is.
Okay.
I'll move on, though. I understand.
Thank you.
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Daly, I believe you've stated the position well for the board, and I'm going to move on now. So I thank you for your time. I don't have any other questions at this time.
Thank you. Any cross-examination, Mr. Rowder?
Just hopefully briefly, Mr. Daly, with respect to your organization and what you just testified, you said in addition to appearing at the meetings of the Art Commission, did you or any of the members of the, I'll just say JAGP, submit written comments and objections and letters, emails, anything of that sort to the Art Commission, both prior, during, or after any of the meetings they had regarding this matter?
Yes, sir. We submitted over 100 letters in writing. I FedExed them personally to the Art Commission myself. It cost almost $50 in FedEx charges, but they were given to the Art Commission, and I think there were too many of them to email, so we sent physical paper copies. It was about an inch thick.
All right, and again, I think as your well, I guess not your attorney, but Mr. Hirschman here today indicated and started off with his presentation that there were in fact not just meetings of the Art Commission, but that the city's Office of Arts and the Art Economy, OETC, had meetings in Queen Village, including a meeting that was at For Pete's Sake Tavern and I think other meetings as well. Are you familiar with those?
They were never advertised to the community. I believe they showed, we were not at those meetings because we didn't know about them. So I have to take issue with the earliest meetings being publicly notified.
Well, again, I believe it's been said that the important factor here is the local community support. Let me ask you this then, Mr. Daly, are you a resident of Queen Village?
I am not a resident of Queen Village.
How many members of JAGP are residents of Queen Village, if you know?
Somewhere in the vicinity of 10.
About 10 out of, you said over 100 members, a couple hundred?
Over 100 letters that were written. There's about 100 and there's about 250 members.
Okay, so about 10 live in Queen Village. Do you know
Correct.
how many of those 10 voiced opposition to the statue? Or to
All
that
10 of
ordinance?
them.
All 10 of them, okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Now, let me ask you this also. Do you personally, or does your organization, JAGP, have any association with the VFW 850?
No.
Okay. Had you been in contact with them prior to this matter, or prior to the litigation at the Court of Common Pleas?
We heard that they were also unhappy with what was being planned.
Okay, but your organization, as far as you know, has not had any direct contact prior to the litigation with VFW Post?
No.
Okay. I have no further questions.
Thank you. Mr. Hirschman, any additional witnesses?
You're muted.
You're muted, Mr. Hirschman.
Firing on all cylinders. I do have additional witnesses, but if I could proceed with the exhibits, I'm not going to pull the exhibits up. The council,
Okay.
the board has indicated that they are going to review them. When you review them, you will see there are comments from Queen Village members that specifically oppose this this proposal within Queen Village.
Mr. Hirschman, could you direct us, if it's going in your package,
Yeah.
to anything that would give us a sense of what the overwhelming community sentiment of Queen Village residents happen to be?
I think I can, but while I do that, as far as finding it in the meeting minutes itself, I think that if I call my next witness, which is my client, Arthur Gibbs,
Okay,
that he may be able to better address this particular question.
okay.
He has not been sworn in, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Gibbs? Unmute yourself, sir.
Yes,
Raise your right hand to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you give today be the truth so help you God?
yes.
Thank you. You can place your hand down. Okay, please proceed.
And Mr. Gibbs, would you be so kind as just to introduce who you are, and and a little bit about your background, where you live?
I'm currently the commander of VFW 8051, Front Street between Queen Street and Christian. I grew up my whole life in Center City. Went to school here at Temple, Penn Charter, and served in the military, multiple deployments in various countries.
In regard to the VFW post, you are the commander of the.
I'm having a little trouble hearing Mr. Gibbs clearly.
Okay.
Maybe.
Art, if you can somehow get closer to your microphone,
Can you
please.
state, where do you live, sir?
Right now, my house is in Grace Ferry, but I'm the commander of the post at Front Queen.
I didn't hear you clearly. Do you live in Queen Village?
No, I live in Grace Ferry.
He said Grays Ferry.
Okay, that I understand.
Oh, okay.
Grays Ferry is a community in South Philadelphia, Mr. Gibbs.
Yep, we know.
We'll take judicial notice.
Okay.
Mr. Gibbs, how long have you been the commander of the VFW post?
Since 2020.
And how long have you been a member of the VFW post?
Since 2017, I believe.
And can you the post itself, can you describe its position in the community of Queen Village?
We're founded in the name of two soldiers who died in World War II, who were from within 2 blocks of the post. And a majority of our membership is either born and raised in the Queen Village area, still lives in the Queen Village area, or is living in South Philadelphia.
And the proposed peace statue, the Comfort Women statue, where would that be placed in relation to the VFW post?
It would be catty corner to where our current post is. Our memorial, which is across the street, which would be down the block from where they proposed to put this, is where our post originally was. But I-95 ran over us in the 60s.
So if you were to walk out of the front door of the VFW post, would you be able to see the park where this proposed statue is going to be?
Yes.
In regards to the VFW post itself, what is it? Is it a social club? How do you, you know, what does it do within the community aside from being a place where its members can congregate?
We try and provide resources for veterans who may be in trouble, or to keep them on the right track. And as far as being part of the community, we deal with cleaning up in the area, and most of our membership, we try and help out if someone is in need of assistance and we can help them in some way. We try and do that as well.
In regard to this Comfort Women statue, did you speak to members of the community of Queen Village in regard to this placement of the statue?
When we eventually found out about it going up, we did, and many of the people who are close with the membership had no idea that this statue was even proposed, much less that anything had already been started on it.
When you did learn of it, did you speak with any residents of
Yeah.
Queen?
Yeah, I spoke with many of the residents, and we tried to start the, she's not currently in charge of the Queen Village Association now, but the woman who was one of the main benefactors of it for Queen Village was unhelpful in getting information and finding out why this had to be here. So we had to, we only found out about one of the local meetings. We had no idea the Pete's Sake meeting. No one ever informed us, and the people who live in the neighborhood that know us, none of them even knew that this meeting had happened. Later on, we only found out about another meeting that was held at our local archdiocese, because the caretaker of the building called us personally to say, are you coming down for this meeting? And that was the first way we found out about it.
So I just want to clarify, you said for Pete's Sake, that's a bar that's located in Queen Village?
Yes, it's a block and a half away from us.
And that's where this hearing was held?
The first one that was, I don't know, 2019 or something like that.
Okay. But my question was, Mr. Gibbs, are you familiar with the sentiment of Queen Village residents in regard to the placement of the statue?
Almost overwhelmingly is against the statue being placed here, just for the divisive nature.
Mr. Hirschman, how does he quantify that? Is there some kind of survey or poll? Did the Queen Village residents do something? How do we know all that?
Are you asking him? Go ahead, Art.
We put out a petition to against this statute going up in the neighborhood. And I believe it's been put into evidence there. It's people who live and work in the area who will be majorly affected by this statute.
How many names on the petition?
I believe there's 176, if I may.
176? Okay.
That I counted it. But if I may share my screen.
Okay, no, I'll take I'll accept that. It's clear. You don't need to do that. 176 names on a petition.
Is that petition in the record as well?
It is marked as.
That's fine. That's fine.
Okay. And Mr. Gibbs, you also submitted a letter to the Art Commission voicing your position. Is that correct?
Yes, it is. And I also submitted a letter to Mayor Kenny stating that we thought this would be highly divisive in the neighborhood and the potential for violence or our monument itself being damaged collaterally was of great concern to me.
I'm sharing my screen now. Art, can you see what is on the screen?
Yes.
Do you recognize what that is?
Yes, that's the one that I sent to the Art Commission.
That's your letter.
Yes.
And again, board members, because you've asked me to not, you have the exhibits. I ask that you read it. It states quite clearly that there was a large amount of opposition. It states quite clearly that they did not believe that they were being heard at the Art Commission meeting. The petition is also enclosed with multiple signatures. Okay.
Okay.
I would like to.
Is there a letter from the Queen Village Association in this attachment?
There's a letter from the Queen Village Association that I believe I will allow Mr. Reuter to. We did not provide that. That is
okay.
Individual.
Is it in opposition?
No, it is not.
Okay.
We will
Not in opposition. It's neither in support. It says it's in non-opposition, but I will
Okay.
that those
Thank you.
letters predate all of these hearings.
Thank you.
Those letters don't seem to take into account Mr. Gibbs's position or the position or any of the opposition that was put forth at all these hearings that were heard by the Art Commission. And it's the Art Commission's job. I'm also going to point out that there are multiple other exhibits, including
Mr. Hirschman?
Yeah.
This has been basically an hour, which exceeds.
I'm towards the end, Mr. Chairman. If
Yes.
I'm not going to bring up any more exhibits.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm just pointing out that there are numerous correspondence that were sent to the Art Commission, including those from a local rabbi, including those from the American Jewish Committee, and multiple others. I will point out that there are in the exhibits that I have provided, there are individuals who were from Queen Village, since the board is focused on that, that voiced their opposition at these hearings, and they also wrote to the commission because they were allowed the opportunity to submit their position online, and so they would write that this is not keeping in the spirit with our residents. This is going to be disruptive. I would like to just, I have no further witnesses. I'm
Okay.
not going to.
Let's see if Mr. Rauter has any cross
Sure.
examination, then we'll go to closing unless Mr. Rauter has
Of
some
course.
additional argument.
It should just take a moment, if I could share my screen.
Yes.
Thank you. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Gibbs, first of all, thank you for your service and that of your members. I wanted to, you had mentioned the involvement of the Queen Village Neighbors Association. Do you agree that the QVNA is the registered community organization for Queen Village, or the portion of Queen Village where the we'll call the Peace Plaza is proposed?
Yes.
Okay. Now, what I'm showing on the screen, you had indicated that there was a strong neighborhood opposition. Have you seen this letter before?
No, I have not. No,
If I told you that this was an exhibit that was attached to the city's response to one of the filings that you had in the Court of Common Pleas, would that jog your memory?
no, I don't remember seeing this one.
Okay. So with respect to this letter, then, if you could just take a quick look at it. This is dated April 27th, 2018. It's addressed to Margot Berg, who was then the Public Art Director for the City of Philadelphia Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. If you could just take a quick look at that letter.
Right.
Okay. Would you agree that the Queen Village Neighborhoods Association indicated that they are not opposed to what was then the Korean American Association of Greater Philadelphia's proposal to install the Statue of Peace?
I'm sorry, I need to object. I'm sorry. I just need to object. This is
What's
not,
the objection?
this is not Mr. Gibbs's. He did not author this. If he's just asking, if counsel's just asking my client to read this, he's not familiar with it. He didn't author it.
Okay.
So if the question is, will you agree that she wrote this? I don't think that moves the ball any further.
Objection sustained. So let's move on, if we would.
Okay. Well, Mr. Gibbs, though, you did indicate that there was strong opposition in Queen Village against this. Did you, through the course of the litigation that you've engaged in over the past year or so, did you come to learn that QVNA, at least officially, did not oppose the installation of the Peace Statue?
Under Ms. Ingersoll, they did not.
They did not. Okay. And would you agree that, again, later in 2020, Queen Village again reiterated their non-opposition to QVNA, that is, again, indicated their non-opposition to the installation?
From the current board president, I guess.
I'm sorry, didn't mean to interrupt. I have the same objection.
Okay.
Well, that I'll overrule because he indicated that he was comfortable stating that the residents were opposed. So this goes to that point.
And that's it. I have no further questions for
Okay.
Mr. Gibbs.
If I just, if I may redirect,
Yes.
I'm going to share my screen. Art, are you familiar with a Margaret Chernecki?
Yes.
Who's Margaret Chernecki?
She was the founder of the Queen Village Association.
She was prior to or subsequent to the individual who just wrote that last letter?
She was prior to.
She was prior to. I'd just like to point out to the board that Margaret Chernecki was also president of the board that she voiced her opposition, and that was at the hearing that took place much later than either of those letters. Again, those letters having been submitted well before the Art Commission's review process got underway.
Okay.
Okay. I have no further questions on
Thank
that.
you. Okay. I think we've, is there any closing argument from either side?
I will try to be brief if I'm allowed to go first.
Yeah, but before I do that, just want to ask Mr. Rotter, is there any additional factual information you'd like to submit before we go to closing?
No, the city does. I mean, again, in our closing, we will refer to some of the documents that have been
Okay.
that were presented by both sides.
And I would, given it's 10:05, we'd like to have each of you have 10 minutes at maximum. And so that we could do that, Mr. Hirschman and Mr. Rotter, that would be appreciated. So let's proceed. Mr. Hirschman?
I would first like to move my exhibits into evidence.
Okay, so noted, move to the evidence.
Okay, I'm going to share my screen. I have a closing presentation, but I know you guys are going to move me along, and please do so because I prefer not to be an irritation.
Mr. Hirschman, what would be good if you could point out to us in your closing, if you can,
Yep.
this issue of MDO directive, the Managing Director's Office
Wonderful.
directive, because that's the core of this argument as to whether it followed that directive.
I'm glad that you asked. So here we go. I'll try and do it quick. Did it meet with Directive 67? As we know, that is their policy and it has the force and effect of law. So the statute piece proposal, you know what it is. We've gone through it. It has to do with women who were taken from a lot of places, Japan, Philippines, Thailand, Malaysia, et cetera, coerced into slavery by the Imperial Armed Forces of Japan. No women from the United States, not from Pennsylvania, not from the Philadelphia area. There are general requirements, made significant contributions to Philadelphia. Is it,
Mr. Hirschman?
It's in there.
Mr. Hirschman, just want to
Yeah.
ask a question. I apologize to you
Yeah.
for this.
No.
But are you certain that there are no residents of Philadelphia who were not themselves comfort women?
You know, if there are, they would have to have been presented to the Art Commission.
But I'm asking,
not
so we
here-
don't
no,
know
I'm not-
that.
But we're here to present it on the record. You said yourselves you're not going to second guess
Yeah.
it. The Art Commission presented absolutely no evidence. My
Okay, all right,
understanding,
thank
is-
you.
you want me to answer it? No, there are none. My
Okay.
understanding from reading all the evidence that I've been presented and I'm presenting to you, there's not a single one in Philadelphia. There's not a single one in the United States.
Okay. All right,
That's
let's
my
proceed.
understanding. And I can tell you for certain, no one, the Art Commission has not produced any evidence of any of them being in Philadelphia.
You've answered my question.
Okay,
You've answered
and when
my
we get to the third, when we get to the third prong that I'm going to talk about, if there are any living in Philadelphia, there cannot be a commemorative statue, but we'll get there in a second.
Okay.
So 1, 2, and 3, they all have to be met. None of them have been met. There is no evidence that an individual or the event, these comfort women, not to diminish anything that they went through, made a significant contribution to Philadelphia, had a significant impact on Philadelphia, or represent broadly shared community values. None of them have been met. Other general requirements. There must be a strong thematic or historical association between the artist or the location and the locators. I'm sorry, the subject or the artist, one or the other. The artists are not from the area. The subject has nothing to do with this location. It has to do with events that took place during World War II in Japan and/or Korea. There has to be appropriate formal connection to the proposed site. This is Directive 67. In general, this is not me saying in general, this is from the directive. There must be a specific geographical justification for the monument being located at a specific site. There has been no such evidence of that. The city does not permit the installation of monuments to living persons. A minimum of 10 years must have gone by. The artistic work, these are other criteria. The suitability for the subject matter. If you looked at Directive 67, Section 3, most important, the intended audience and relationship to the social and cultural identity of the immediate local community. None of these have been met. None of these criteria were even considered. Documentation demonstrating support from the community. You have received the opposite. You have been shown that there was one letter presented from an individual, yes, from the Queen Village Association, but that predate any of the evaluation that went on, predate any of these submissions. I don't know what that person knew, but I can tell you that's woefully insufficient considered the mountains of opposition. It's not simply a management policy. It has to be followed. It's binding and mandatory. These are all language that comes directly from the case in Commonwealth Court that was referenced earlier by counsel from the Friends of Marconi Plaza. These mandates must be followed. These are not simple guidelines that you can consider or not consider. They were not considered at all. There's no evidence at all that any of these things have been met. It would be a farce and to make the Directive 67 completely useless to allow this particular statute to move forward. There's been no connection to Philadelphia. There's been significant opposition from the community. All right, I don't want to do this because this is the same thing over and over, but I do want to just bring up this one point because I can't remember where it was in the record. Thank you for bearing with me. Boom, boom, boom. This is supported by the Surviving Comfort Women of Korea. This is in the Exhibit A. There are living comfort women of Korea. At the time this was proposed, there were more living comfort women of Korea. The general requirements are clear. The city does not permit the installation of monuments to living persons. There is no way that the city could have complied with Directive 67 based upon that portion alone. Just on that. I got into the weeds when it came to the derisiveness and the explosiveness that Queen Village community, Arthur Gibbs and VFW Post 8051, that they don't want, because it's important, because it shows just how much they were opposed and why they are opposed. Of course, they are mindful and they are sympathetic to any atrocities that occurred. But this statue represents more than that. This statue represents a tinderbox for conflict. This statue represents an ongoing, and the proposal itself calls it that, an ongoing pursuit for reconciliation and justice, as they would deem it to be justice, because this has already been resolved by the nations of Japan and South Korea. It is maddening that it had to get this far. It is maddening that the Art Commission so willfully disregarded Directive 67, and that we had to get to this point. But our position is clear. It's supported by the evidence. If you look at Directive 67 and you look at any of the submissions that were made to the Art Commission, it is clear that Directive 67 quite simply was not even considered. That's all I have.
Thank you. Thank you, sir. Mr. Rauter?
Sure, thank you. First of all, two things. The city agrees that Directive 67, at least according to since the Commonwealth Court's decision and the Friends of Marconi Plaza, does apply to this. It does apply, has the force of law, and needs to be adhered to. The city strongly disagrees that Directive 67 was not adhered to in this instance. We would remind the board that the Friends of Marconi Plaza specifically involved the application of Directive 67 as it applies to the removal of art objects in the city. And with respect to Directive 67, Directive 67 has specific requirements for removal that the Court of that both the Court of Common Pleas and the Commonwealth Court determined that the city did not follow. So I want to point out, for instance, that the appellants here, I think, are conflating some of the different sections of Directive 67 and what is a requirement and what are guidelines. So, for instance, the general requirements for art to be accepted or owned by or installed by the City of Philadelphia, they get reviewed by the Office of Arts, Culture, and Creative Economy. That's been done clearly. And then they are reviewed by the Art Commission for Artistic Merit, Cultural Context, Site Appropriateness, et cetera. That was done. There's no dispute that the Art Commission and OACCE followed those requirements of Directive 67. Now, here's where we get into some of the specifics, objections that were raised by the appellants here. The second criteria for general requirements, proposals for commemorative monuments to an individual or event will only be considered for persons or events that are evidence to have made significant contributions to Philadelphia, et cetera, et cetera. Now, first, we would suggest that the Peace Plaza, the statue and inscription, is not a commemoration of a specific event or a specific thing. It is a monument to a cultural phenomenon that terrible things that happen in war, particularly the sexual enslavement of women that has occurred throughout history, and that was, yes, specifically became sort of again, I don't want to get into the controversy about the history, but that was undoubtedly a part of the Japanese imperial war machine from the 1930s through the end of World War II. So it's number 3, for commemorative monuments, there must be strong thematic and or historical association between the subject or artist and location, appropriate formal connection, et cetera, et cetera. So again, the city's position is that this is not a monument to a specific event, but to a phenomenon that occurs, and that again, that with respect to these guidelines, we would suggest that they were in fact followed, even if in a more broad sense. In fact, they've said several times today that the Art Commission did not follow Directive 67 or ignored it, but in fact, the record of the Art Commission, which you have, which is reflected in the minutes, many of which were provided by the appellants themselves, indicated that the Art Commission did in fact spend a considerable amount of time wrestling with the requirements of Directive 67, and particularly making determinations of how the statue and the Statue of Peace and the installation and the text represented the city of Philadelphia's broad values to promote peace, justice, and healing of victims of sexual slavery, and to shed light on the stories of women that haven't been told. We would also indicate that, again, there's seems to have been a lot of objection. Arguably, the lion's share of the objection has been to the opening of old wounds or irritating existing wounds, and how this has been a flashpoint throughout the world. And we'll concede that that's true. The Statue of Peace throughout the world has been very controversial. In Berlin, there's a Statue of Peace that was very controversial. There was moved to have it removed. It wasn't removed. Since October, there's been a court injunction in Germany to prevent the removal of the peace statue. I think that's still taking place. The original peace statue was installed directly across from the Japanese embassy in Seoul, and almost immediately the Japanese government insisted that it be removed. They originally were going to remove it, and then Japan said, well, we'll put X amount of money up to pay for reparations to the comfort women if you remove the statue. There may or may not have been an agreement to do that. That fell by the wayside. That statue still exists across the street from the Japanese consulate or Japanese embassy in Korea. I think there's actually closer to 150 of these statues throughout the world. So it is controversial. There's no dispute about that. But the fact that it makes people uncomfortable is hardly a basis to reject its installation. I mean, generally speaking, you could make an argument that art by its nature ought to make you uncomfortable at a certain point. That's one of its goals, not always. Sometimes it's supposed to make you feel good, but sometimes it might make you feel bad and make you look up things and try to do your own research and figure out what was the real story of the comfort women. Was it true? Did it really happen? What was the scope of it? And those are things that, unfortunately didn't come to light really at all until the 1990s, when some of the survivors finally started to speak out as they got much older. So here, again, I think what we're looking at specifically is, how does the statue, in terms of Directive 67, how does it relate to Philadelphia and this location? Well, I think the honorable service of the members of the VFW itself lends itself to that. The post, if I understand correctly, is named after two survivors, two veterans of the Second World War, a war that the United States fought and that these veterans fought. Many of them died in the Pacific War to stop the Japanese imperial war machine. That led to not just the end of the war, but the end of the imperial Japanese army. And that's why it doesn't exist anymore. And that's why it's the city's position that the peace statue, and specifically the text that was adopted by the city, explicitly highlights the fact that that ended. The Japanese war machine, the imperial army, was ended by the end of World War II. It was one of the conditions of the unconditional surrender, was that that army was to be dissolved. And to this day, it does not exist. Japan does not have a standing army to this day because of that. So again, the city is second to none in its appreciation of Japan and its culture and its government and economy and what it's done since the war. And in no way, shape, or form does the city have any intention to exacerbate any hostility or encourage any hostility towards Japan. The point of the peace statue is to emphasize that Philadelphians' common sympathy and empathy for what happened in the war, and to recognize an atrocity that was often forgotten, in fact, was pretty much entirely forgotten for almost 40 to 50 years after the war. And the things that happened are still happening throughout the world. And the inscription was changed specifically to address the concerns that it was somehow specific to Japan as it exists today. And I think we've shown pretty clearly that the inscription, I think quite obviously, is not in any way saying anything about the current state of Japan or the Japanese culture any more than the memorial across the street is a slight against Germany. It is a memorial, and it's a reminder of things that happened that we would hope would never happen again. And again, we think that it was the Philadelphians were involved in the war. Philadelphians fought the war. Philadelphians fought against the things that this statute is reminding us of. So in that sense, we do believe that Directive 67 was followed, and certainly all of the notification requirements were followed. And to the extent that Marconi Plaza applies at all, we do think that the city did follow it. We did not follow the specific directives that were indicated in Marconi Plaza, because those are specific directions that address the removal of objects. The approval of objects and art, I think, is much broader. And again, I think if you reread Directive 67, you'll agree. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Do I have
the
an
board-
opportunity to?
No. We've heard from both sides. We appreciate your efforts and your advocacy on behalf of your clients. I did know, Mr. Hirschman, that Mr. Byrd, I think, Mr. Daly rather, had his hand raised. I'm not sure if that was intentional or not, but we're not prepared to hear from him at this point.
The city would move that our exhibits be accepted into the record.
So moved.
I believe, and Mr. Hirschman, with his, if he doesn't object, the two letters from QVNA, I'm not 100% sure whether they were included in the documents. We did present it today as a rebuttal. If I will check if it's not there, I would ask that we would be able to send a copy to the board, since it was.
I have no objection. I'm not sure if they were. I can't remember.
Okay, we will
They were
conclude
an
those.
exhibit to one of the things.
Okay,
Yeah.
we'll incorporate those
I've
two
seen
letters
them.
in the record. Also, the board will consider all today's testimony and the arguments, as well as review the record itself, and we will vote in a public forum at a later date. We will inform all parties when that vote will occur.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a good evening.
For your
May I
time.
just
Thank you very
compliment
much.
both council for recognizing the role of this board in considering an appeal from the Art Commission and trying as best as they could to stick to the issue of whether or not the Art Commission acted within the scope of its authority on this matter. So thank you for your cooperation.
Oh, thank you very much. It was a
Thank you.
pleasure being here. Thank you, board members. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I be excused?
Yes, sir. All witnesses are excused. This, I believe, concludes our hearings for today. Everyone have a good evening.
Thank you very much.